Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matt Taylor here with my good buddy
Kyle Amundsen.
And we have Jon Howard back because our last Howard adventure was a little short.
It just went by too quickly.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm like a rash. I always leave you wanting more.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, it was only three and a half hours, so it really wasn't even that short of an episode. It did just feel short because it felt like we just could have continued that conversation.
Agreed.
So,
Absolutely.
What the hell were we talking about? Where do we leave off?
We were talking about books. We talked a little about Christianity. We were talking about stuff. Just stuff.
Yeah,
stuff.
Talking about pandemic stuff, COVID stuff. Yeah. So I think what our burning desire is today is you've just recently joined the whole apocalypse crew.
Right.
So if you guys don't know, we talked a little bit ago.
Nerds of the apocalypse.
It's about exactly it. That Kyle and I, Sam Gibbons, Tharg, and now Jon Howard are kind of launching this creative writing project where we are trying to come up with a universe, essentially an apocalyptic universe, and then we're all going to write inside of that universe as kind of a creative writing project.
Apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic?
What is the difference?
We're really. I guess the apocalypse itself isn't really a big player in the stories. Yeah.
It's what comes after.
What's the difference between apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic?
Well, post-apocalyptic is after the apocalypse happens. So after
just like alarm clock and after alarm clock.
Yeah.
So an apocalyptic book would be a book about the fall.
Yes,
of
right,
civilization.
right.
A post-apocalyptic book would be like The Road, which is like after the fall.
Yeah.
Oh, which by the way, I should talk about the fucking Road.
Yeah, since we've read some of the ones that we talked about in the last one that we hadn't read since then. He started reading The Road. I read. We both read.
So in the podcast
Babylon,
where we did our top 5 apocalyptic books of all time. We'd kind of come up with our list, and there was a whole bunch on the list that neither of us had read, or I shouldn't say on the list, on mini lists of the best post-apocalyptic books out there that we hadn't read. One of them was Alas Babylon. Have you read Alas Babylon?
I haven't, but I'm aware of it, but only because it was on my school teacher's bookshelf in like 8th grade.
Oh, really? It's quite good, but it's old, and I thought that because it was dated, it was going to be less interesting. That was not the case.
It was interesting, but it was a very flowers and lollipops version of the apocalypse.
Well, and I did see, especially for a nuclear war. But I saw when I was rewatching the last episode. I mentioned something that I'd read about how 1 second after was basically like a retelling of Alas Babylon, and that's totally a mischaracterization of that book.
Yeah,
they're very, 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 very different.
Well, Alas Babylon is a book about the Ruskies bombing us in the '60s, and then everybody lives happily ever after. I mean, it's a very. I mean, it was good. It was dated. It was an interesting story.
It was like the bubblegum shortage of 1961 or something. That's about how like at the end of it, I'm like, that's it. You just had a nuclear war and. You guys seem really all right,
Yeah, I think like 5 people died. Right. It was So I
and they had pre-existing conditions.
Had mentioned that, and so I read that one. And then a friend of mine was giving me some shit about how I hadn't read The Road. How dare I not read The Road? And I'm like, because I'm fucking fragile, right?
And Cormac McCarthy is or MacArthur or whatever is a mean man. Is that the name? Cormac MacArthur?
Now that you put the two names out there, it's definitely Cormac.
Yeah.
So I went down the road and read The Road, and fucking is that a fucking hard book to read and still stay alive. I mean,
is it similar to the movie?
Well, I only made it 20 minutes into the movie before I was like, okay, you can fuck this.
Right.
But it was, so I would assume it was pretty similar to the movie. I mean, the fact is he's a wonderful writer.
Yeah.
The prose are incredible. It's really, really well written. It is just absolutely like void of hope.
Right.
Just the most the masochistic fucking slog through a movie or fucking book you'll ever have.
So the opposite of the Postman is what you're saying.
Yeah,
which is
pretty
is
much.
a great hopeful future,
Yeah,
which,
yeah.
by the way, I just read after we talked last time.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you had never read it before?
I'd seen the movie.
Oh, yeah. Did you like the book?
I did. It was different than the movie.
Oh, way
like
different.
The AI and I thought the movie had a better story and conflict and was a little bit
I
more
kind of liked the
palatable.
movie better too.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I see. I like
ain't
the book
fucking
much
Kevin
better.
Costner, but you know.
No, I like him.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in some of my favorite movies.
Oh, I finally got around to I read I Am Legend.
Oh yeah, that's a good book.
And that you know what? I think I like the movie better there too.
the Will Smith movie, or like
The Will Smith movie, not the
'cause
Charlton Heston one.
wasn't there a Vincent Price one? I think there was a Vincent.
Maybe it
Price
was- maybe
one,
that's
like,
the one I'm
way
thinking of,
back
'cause
in the day.
I want to say there was I thought what was the Omega Man? Was that the Charlton Heston one or something?
Well, there was an Omega Man, which was Charlton Heston. I don't remember if that had like vampires in it. The weird thing, and I don't know if it was. I haven't seen the Will Smith movie.
You have it? Oh, it's really
no,
great.
it's pretty damn good. Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's great.
I read the book because it's a short read.
Yeah, it's a very short
I read
story.
that quite a while ago, and that was when you get to the end, and they're like, "No, you're the fucking asshole." Like I'm ruining this for people, but
I haven't read it.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't mean
Is that in the
you should.
movie? Is that
No, not at all.
Oh, that's the
no.
best.
The movie is about as similar to the book as the Postman movie is to that book.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the best part. That made the book for me. That was just like, oh, our hero's a fuckwad.
You know, right? Like
he's a jerk.
but like all along, and it really fucking, that part just fucking, that's kind of a mind fuck because you're like, well, of course he's doing that. You know, like there's nothing weird about how the guy, like what the guy does.
Yeah.
Like when it's all set up that way,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, but if there's another perspective to be had, then fuck me. You know, like, oh.
So
You're not a hero. You're a fucking mass murderer.
there was an
10-minute
I am Legend. Like a lot of, I think there were a lot of people thought that had like a religious allegory kind of thing to the I Am Legend. Was that prevalent in the book at all?
No.
Okay, that's
No.
because you had said something about the I Am
I
Legend.
mean,
and I was
the
like, I was
whole
wondering if
Jesus
it-
says, "Don't be an asshole" to the people you share the world with. I think that's
Yeah, well, there's a scene in the movie where, like, I can't even remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but a lot of people, like were talking about how it was this religious allegory.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea, but whatever. I'm okay with religious allegories.
it's a fine book. It's a quick read, and the last page and a half just turns the whole thing on its head. And you're like,
Interesting.
oh,
Well, I might have
See
to.
what you
I
did
might have to
there.
read that then.
But the movie is like fun, sad, uplifting. Sad, like cry real tears, sad.
dog. Yeah. God. I
That
saw
shit.
the dog in the poster. I'm like, you assholes. Why would you do that?
Fucking boy. And that's when, like, that was one of those. That was when I saw it in the theater, and I'm like, and this is a very public place for me to fucking cry this hard. But whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just turning your mic down a touch
Okay.
because I can hear it cracking me a little bit.
Okay.
So speaking of dogs, have you guys seen Turner and Hooch?
The new one, no. The old one, yes.
No. I don't know. This is a stupid story, but I remember I was like 17 years old,
Yeah.
and me and my buddy are going to go to Turner and Hooch, and we're like walking out the door to go, and we run into the neighbor chick, and she's like, "Hey, what are you guys up to?" And we're like, "Oh, we're going to go see Turner and Hooch," and she goes, "Oh, it's such a good movie, but the dog dies."
Oh.
And I was like, "You fucking bitch!" And then my buddy Elijah's like holding me back because I'm like, I'm gonna attack her. I was so pissed. I still went and seen it. And it was
that
still really
Tom
sad.
Hanks
Yeah,
in
Tom
Turner?
Hanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very topical. That's
Everybody
that's very-
made a
Well, they're
dog
doing
cop
a remake
movie
of that
around
now.
there.
Yeah.
What was James Belushi's brother's dog movie?
K9. Yeah.
K9, I think.
Yeah, because I think there was also a K9000 which was like a cyber dog, but not necessarily a sequel. There was a lot of terrible movies back then. But yeah, K9, and I think that was a German Shepherd.
Well, I would assume so. It's canine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have been kind of doing all this research about, like the post-apocalyptic end of the fall kind of thing. It's been what I've spent most of my, like listening time on. And Kyle got me turned on to this podcast.
You know where I found that? So I was I belonged to this liberal preppers group on Facebook, and there was a woman on there that she, fucking brilliant, really. And I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, that is a fucking great. Like, I never thought of that. That's great. So she
never thought of what?
Oh, just like, it was a long post and stuff. But like she just had a couple of really fresh takes on some stuff, and because we were talking about like global warming and stuff like that. Which I've been thinking a lot about lately. But so she recommended she recommended a book, which I bought right away because I'm like, well, it's 18 hours long. Great. So I got that, and then she recommended the podcast, and I'm like, well, let me check out this podcast before I start this book because I was already in the middle of something.
Same author or same?
No,
person?
no.
Oh, okay.
Completely different. But now I'm excited to start the book because her fucking recommendation on the podcast, like, I started listening to it and I was like, this is great. It was it could happen here. It could happen here.
Yeah,
right?
It could happen here.
And that whole season they devoted to a second Civil War.
Second American Civil War.
And
he lays out a pretty fucking good argument for why it could happen and what the consequences of it happening would be. And this podcast was done in 2019 And
was it?
Yeah.
The first season, and then the second season was really recent.
So you started listening to the second season.
Yeah,
did you go back and listen to it?
I listened to the first two episodes of the first season.
Okay,
I went back, and then I re-listened to part of it to mount my evidence against the podcast and its thesis.
Okay, okay, interesting. Because I think that you could definitely poke some holes in the.
I fully expected that to happen too, because I was like, for as much as I liked it, as much as I enjoyed it too, and I didn't find it too dry and stuff like that, but I felt like it was geared, like it was just for me, But I was like, at the same time, I'm like, I was thinking about things like. I'm like, well, not all my smart friends are going to dig this. So I was like, okay, like a 4, like a 5 or a 6, probably dig this. Like a 5 or 6 like me. But then I'm like, like a 7, 8, or 9, like my smarter friends and stuff. Because I was like, I actually thought about like who's not going to like this, and I'm like, I don't know if John's going to buy this shit, and I'm like. Also, Sam's probably going to hate it, So I'm like...
But my 4 friends, I'll send it to Matt, because he'll fucking eat that shit up.
Well, and then I was like...
there was a fucking put down.
And then that's probably like the 7s and 8s and stuff. I'm like, 9s don't listen to podcasts. They're too busy, like, fucking running the world or whatever. And then the 10s, they just levitate around and shit, and fucking control people's minds and stuff,
Yeah. They have that cape that, like forms to them and shit.
But yeah, so I was like, man, I enjoy this so much. I'm like, and I enjoy it so much because it's kind of geared towards me. That means there's probably some serious fucking holes in this.
Probably.
And some,
I mean, I thought if you want to write a book and that's going to be your premise for like your post-apocalyptic book, this is what happened, and then going forward, so that's my thesis is this is what happened. This is what's going to become of it. This is my story world, whatever. Like we're working on. It's probably fine. And for me, it was like he presented evidence, but it didn't relate to his thesis. And then he also...
okay, we got to get into specifics because what the fuck are you talking about? Because I don't agree with that at all. I mean, okay, but let's just lay kind of briefly out what his premise was. So basically, he's saying that And okay, so let's talk about it.
Well,
So
shit, what's his name?
Good question.
I knew it yesterday.
On my phone.
But he's a journal. He's a former comedian that worked for Cracked magazine.
Yes.
Gamer nerd.
Yeah.
Prepper dude. Journalist who's so that's how he got into the whole or Civil War thing, because he's covered a couple of civil wars in like fucking
and he's a
Eastern Europe.
he's a Texan gun-toting liberal.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I liked him. I was like,
that was one of the things I'm like, this guy's one of us.
you had me at gun-toting liberal. But he kind of lays out an argument that, that not necessarily that we are that we're heading for another civil war, but that, basically the elements are here.
And for some people, it's already started.
Like, it's not going to be good. So what was your specific issue?
Okay. Well, I had several, but I have notes.
Oh shit.
We love notes.
So he starts out with, and I'll just do a little.
And again, you're only two episodes in? Two
episodes in. I'll find these slowly. But he talks about, he'll give evidence. I'll just sum off the top of my head while I find it in my Google Drive. He talks about...
So is it more like anecdotal type evidence? So it doesn't really point directly to...
His evidence isn't necessarily anecdotal, which I like. He's like, there's a study that says that people trust people less, right?
Okay,
he talks about that in the first episode. And he's like, generally people trust people less nowadays. But that does not make... He doesn't talk about how that will lead to war. That's just people trust each other less.
Okay.
And he doesn't talk about, do people trust their neighbors less? Or do people trust the people they see on TV less?
Okay,
because there's a big difference. Because I live in a neighborhood made up, we have liberals and conservatives, right? And everyone gets along really great, right?
Okay, yeah.
And because if we go to a civil war in modern times, it's going to be liberals versus conservatives for the most part, along those lines, right?
Without a doubt.
And I'm not going to be, I don't hate my neighbors. I don't hate my coworkers who are conservative, right? And I like all of these people. And they're a little different. We have some different views on global warming and shit like that. But we all, and some are gun owners and some aren't and whatnot. But I'm not going to go shoot one of the Kevins, because I have two neighbors named Kevin who are both conservative and they're awesome. I'm not going to get in a war with them, and they're not going to get in a war with me because they're decent human beings.
I've thought about that about my own neighborhood now, and I'm actually excited to join your neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's one of the few places
It's
it's one of the few places around in the area where there's a high concentration of liberals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to. Okay, go ahead.
Well, so I've always thought man, I'm not going to side with people that vote like me against my neighbor.
Right.
I can't fucking do that, unless my neighbor's a fucking piece of shit, which, what if my neighbor's not a piece of shit? I just can't go, based on my, my opinions and my politics.
And I have
Okay.
friends
I got to jump in.
Okay.
So when things aren't bad, it's pretty easy to get along with people that don't agree with you.
Right.
But when things start to get bad, really bad, then the pressure is applied and shit breaks down. And I'm not saying that it's going to break down liberal conservative, though I do think that and those aren't even the right words, but I do think that it's that the conflict is going to be along ideological lines. Right, but I don't think that means that in my neighborhood I'm going to be like, which team are you on? That's not the way it's going to work. But eventually people are going to faction up. I mean, that's just the way that it goes. But a good example of that, right, is someplace like Iraq, let's say.
Yeah.
And when Iraq was falling to shit, everything went went to what's the right word? Sectarian
violence.
Sectarian lines, right? Which I don't even really know what that means. I know it means that people were in different religious groups or even ethnic groups.
Also, a good point.
That
makes me think of Bosnia and stuff. Because history is full of examples of instances where as soon as things go to shit, like maybe you played together as kids, maybe you were neighbors growing up, like maybe you've been friends for a long time, I mean, look at our first Civil War, I guess, is probably a good example.
There was a very clear geographical line.
Right, and that's the
True.
That's
not everywhere. I mean, like Kansas and Missouri and shit, like...
We have the border states, but yeah. But I mean, it was a pretty clear north versus south.
Right. There was at least a line.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, there was definitely brothers fighting brothers and, breaking families apart and all of that. I actually just got done reading this really interesting series by our boy...
Bernard Cromwell.
Bernard Cromwell, who's like one of the greatest like historical fiction authors ever, and by far the most prolific. Yeah. But he wrote it. The book is really interesting. It's a series about the Civil War, and he wrote it from the perspective of a northern person who ends up fighting for the South, and all of the weird complications, and it's really a very interesting book. But I was trying to think like why he would have done it that way. Why wouldn't he have just? And the reason is because there's really no story if if it's about the North, because like they had everything, they had all the advantages, and ended up winning in the end, but in spite of themselves, in spite of a bazillion like mistakes and fuck ups and whatever. So the only real story is the South, doing whatever. But you can't root for fucking that. So like, how do you? So he walked. Plus he's British, so he doesn't have a fucking dog in the fight. But he also isn't like pro fucking slavery. So he's like trying to delicately walk this line, and I was like, it's very fucking interesting. That said, right, if there's a civil war that breaks out, actually, I don't even necessarily like the idea of a civil war is the idea of like two factions fighting each other, right? And that's not what we're talking about. That's not what's going to happen.
But that is what he calls his podcast.
Sure. Right.
When actually it's a lot more factions. There's like numerous factions, and then and then most people are just trying to fucking get by and not get killed by one of these factions. Which
happens in most civil wars. I mean, if you're in Syria absolutely. Right now, I mean, most people in Syria are not on a side. They are trying not to die.
Right.
But it's more than likely going to be, regional breakdowns, right? And whatever. But he was writing all this shit before George Floyd. Yes, it was before George Floyd, and before, before
COVID and stuff,
and before the insurrection at the White House, and before COVID.
Well, and it's funny because he talks about these precipitating events, like, he doesn't say George Floyd, but he talks about like police shooting someone, and it's, there's no clear who's innocent, who wasn't, except in George Floyd's case, obviously. The police officer wasn't innocent, I mean, right.
So what you're saying? Okay, go ahead, finish your point.
No, he talks about these precipitating events, but we've seen precipitating events or would be precipitating events, and yes, there was unrest and there was marches and there was stuff that went on and some property got destroyed, but yet we haven't seen the results.
Okay, John, that is a straw man argument, and what you're saying is okay. The fire's not going to start because we threw some matches out there and nothing took. Right. Just because Minneapolis only burned a little bit and they only like firebombed one police station. That's not the level of unrest we're talking about. You're right. That didn't lead to a complete all-out fucking war. Right. But it also did nothing. None of the underlying conditions have changed. It also didn't change any of the underlying conditions
it didn't change any of the systems we have in place to prevent it either.
Well, I would argue that if anything, it's hardened the systems. So. You haven't probably got to this part, but talking about the boomerang effect, has he gotten to that part?
I don't know, no.
So the idea is when authority has to respond to dissent, right? They have the tendency to respond more than is appropriate.
Right.
And when they respond more than is appropriate, it causes more dissent. A classic example is, the U.S. military in Iraq, bombing, trying to, kill bad guys, end up overdoing it, killing a bunch of civilians, causing more jihadists.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just
radicalizing.
You radicalize people, and I think that absolutely happened during last summer's debacle. It just didn't spiral out of control yet. Now, again, I'm not in favor of it spiraling out of control. I am interested in trying to figure out if we're talking about doing a book or a writing exercise in a world that unravels, how might that world unravel?
Right.
And
I think like a perfect storm of a few things, including some of the things that are like going on right now. You like supply line problems and shortages and stuff like that, and then you pile on a pandemic.
Just
and
sprinkle in a little pandemic there.
And now you're just like
Sturge
waiting
that,
for I hate that fucking, but the straw that breaks the camel's back. What could that be? And what would that look like?
But I don't
like
think-
a couple of Timothy McVeigh types out there.
But
or,
I don't necessarily think there will be a straw that breaks the camel's back. I think when you look back at the collapse, it'll be much like they said in The Postman.
Crumbles.
It wasn't this. It wasn't that. We could have survived this. We could have survived that. We could have survived all those things, but we couldn't survive them all at the same time.
Right.
We had too many things, too many fractures, and then it starts to really hurt.
Yeah, and like one of the things that the God damn it, I wish I knew his name, that he talks about in the podcast, and he gets back to it a lot, is like it's not going to be like, okay, now you this side and this side, you guys retreat to your neutral corners because now we're going to fight.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. He calls it the crumbles. So this, like this happens over here, and then this happens over here, and like society you don't wake up one morning and society just fucking collapses. You've just got pieces of it that go to shit, here and there, incrementally, and maybe not even like to a level where everything's fucked. There's just pockets of fucked up,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, the Corona taught us how incredibly delicate our supply lines are.
Oh yeah.
And
Unless you're
but I've been
Toyota.
really happy with how much we've hardened them since then, because there was already no fucking toilet paper.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago because they said there was a spike and there might be another shutdown. I mean, it's like we haven't hardened anything. Our supply lines are still fucked up, and it's like
Are our supply lines fucked up, or are the logistics fucked up because people are idiots? Like, that's the main problem. There is enough toilet paper to go around forever and ever, but you have some asshole hoarders, and that's a human problem. That's not a logistics
asshole hoarders
problem, or a supply line problem.
Well, no, it's both, because it's asshole hoarders, absolutely, but it's also a fact that we have the just-in-time system where no grocery store has more than it need. There's no warehouse of backup shit.
I think it has a lot more to do with less of that and more if you rationed it. If you didn't allow people to buy in excessive bulk, this wouldn't be a problem. We'd fill our needs.
John, this is America. You cannot tell me how much fucking butt wipe I need.
But World War II?
My freedoms.
World War I?
So I just had this conversation the other day, and I had to walk away.
Yeah.
But because I was working, and if I hadn't been behind the bar, then I would have just fought. But it was a fucking stupid ass like vaccine fucking conversation.
Oh,
And-
wait, you found you found a pointless and stupid conversation about
and-
vaccinations?
And while I'm working,
I haven't seen any of those.
I'm
yet.
not going to. I mean, I try not to fucking fight about this anyway, but I'm not gonna whatever. But the fucking stupidity that this guy was dribbling out of his fuck face,
Yeah.
I couldn't even. I was like,
It's a term we use in the customer service industry.
yeah, you know who you are, you fuck face. He was like, yeah, fucking, 20 years ago they tried to tell you got to get a vaccine. There'd be fucking people dead in the street. And I was like, I mean,
No, 20 years ago we just would have rolled with it and not been dicks about
well,
it.
and
20 years ago, I had to get vaccines. It was called
Right.
school.
Yeah, I've got this little scar on my arm.
and I was like,
And you haven't had measles.
Yeah, funny how that works.
It's crazy. Smallpox.
Well, I mean,
polio,
well, like-
none of those.
Lucky, I guess.
I mean,
Whooping cough.
the best example
Bald eagles have been protecting me.
is the polio vaccine. I mean, it was a mandatory vaccine. You fucking did not have the choice, and if you didn't fucking want to do it, that was just too goddamn bad.
Smallpox.
They would fucking drag you there. But I mean,
You know how
the
things were better.
polio was one where they would literally round you up and bring you and do it.
Smallpox, too.
And yeah, smallpox as well.
But I wanna talk about smallpox.
Polio, that vaccine killed a lot of people. It was a really rough vaccine. It was like
It was bred on cats.
it was right. So, and they were like, we don't care. We know some of you going to die, but we don't want to fucking have polio. So guess what, motherfuckers? Here we go. And everybody was like, well, of course I'll do it. It would be unpatriotic if I didn't. And now it's like, I just was like, oh my God, I can't have this conversation. I have to walk away.
Jacobson versus Massachusetts Supreme Court decision 1905, right? You know about this one?
No.
Okay. So basically, Massachusetts said everyone needs to get a smallpox vaccination. And this guy's like, but my freedoms. And in 1905, it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, it's public health. Of course you have to.
Right.
Yeah, but,
Which is
but
like
it
a-
wasn't like this
which is-
back in the
which is-
day.
which
The
is-
needs of the many, you dipshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saint Spock said that. Right. That's not the baby guy. That's the live long and prosper one. I got a really badly broken finger. So I can't do it on the right.
I was just going to go for the nanu. Fucking date myself. Compare Spock to that fuck.
I almost did nanu myself.
Oh my God. Okay.
That's Mork from Ork. Mork and Mindy for you.
Who played Mindy?
I don't even remember Mindy.
Nobody. It's so. it's so-
Mork was Robin Williams.
It's so
Yeah.
misogynistic, right? It really is.
Well,
It
Robin
just-
Williams did go on to be one of the biggest,
Yeah.
ever.
Right. But I bet if we tried to do a contest of like naming people that were in things,
Yeah.
like we would be very hard pressed to get. It would be 10-1 probably. I would think.
Yeah.
But it is what
Well,
it is.
and the ones that we would get would be ones like Linda Carter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
And,
it's,
for reasons.
but it's because all women look alike.
Right. Well, we got a lot of shit. We were talking about Star Trek, and then
Sorry, we
and,
might have
and
went off.
early on, and I said something to the extent of, and then there was that stupid one with the female captain, and I was like, and then whatever, people were giving me shit about it, but I'm like, but I seriously just dismissed that one. It wasn't interesting. I didn't care. It was like, but it had nothing to do with the fact that she was female. Maybe,
No, it was because
I might actually just be super misogynistic.
No, it was
It's
because the
really-
Vulcan was black, and you're racist.
was that, I don't remember that, but it,
Yeah.
how does
that dude, yeah.
How does that work?
What was his name? Tuvok, right? With Tuvok.
I don't even-
It was
I never-
really
I didn't
close
watch that
to
one either.
Tuvok. I don't,
Yeah. So his Vulcan name was like Tuvok Shapur or something like that?
Awkwardly, yes, but he did drop some sweet beats before he was assassinated by a Borg.
Oh, shit.
That's good stuff. So, you guys wanted to talk about Texas?
Oh,
Yeah.
we can talk about Texas.
So apparently something's going on in Texas. I seriously have. I'm in a
Spin free zone.
Yeah, I guess we could say that. I'm in a media blackout.
You don't pay attention to lamestream media?
Anything. Well, I don't pay attention to anything. Like I've been off. So I've been I've had this huge project. I'll talk just quickly about that, and then we'll talk about Texas. But the last 3 weeks, I took on this project to do a big woodworking project for Antia Anderson and her mom Tina. Antia's been on the show. She's a real estate agent.
Tina will be on the show because she's fucking brilliant and hilarious.
Yeah, every time I talk to her, I'm like, God damn, we got to get you on. But they just recently bought that place on 6th Street. That I don't know. It used to be the Traveling Art Pub, but
they just turned it into this beautiful, cool oasis.
Yeah, cool.
It's going to be a bunch of things. They're going to do some flowers. They're going to do some real estate classes there. They got some a whole bunch of shit brewing, but they wanted. Apparently, flowers have to be cooled in a cooler, and they were looking at coolers and they couldn't find anything. They wanted this kind of specific thing to go in a specific area, so they asked me to build them a custom cooler, and it was a real challenge to do, but it was really cool. It was very fun, and it's actually interesting because I took an actual a regular old air conditioner, and I tricked it to cool it down to the 38 degrees that needs to happen. So, but yeah, turned out really cool. But it was a pretty massive project, and I didn't do anything else while I was doing that. I just kind of had to sink into that sucker.
Nice.
So what's happening in Texas?
Well, if you watch the news, you won't be able to tell if you're watching the actual news or like a fucking Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. So Texas had said that there will be no abortions for anyone who, if the fetus has a heartbeat, which is like 6.5 weeks in, right? Which basically
around the time that a lot of women are finding out that they're pregnant
Yeah.
or thinking about going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
I mean, that's like I missed my period for 2 weeks. Oh shit, I'm pregnant.
Shit, they don't come weekly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I missed my period. It's been 2 weeks.
It's 3 o'clock and I haven't got my daily period yet.
I'm sorry.
Matt's gonna run for office as a Republican. That was just a joke because they're traditionally there's some cats in the Republican Party that are not really familiar with how women's bodies work.
Ben Shapiro.
They're as bad as when they were trying to talk to the Facebook guy or whatever.
Oh, the MyPillow guy, or
no, who does Facebook?
Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he was in front of Congress, and they were asking him okay, so on my iPhone, it was obvious they're 70, they don't know what they're.
It's always a good time, man.
There are some cats in the Republican Party who are a tubal pregnancy can be moved, and if it's because of rape or incest, it'll just term itself. And,
yes, remember that? A woman's body has a way of taking care of that on its own.
Yeah, that's not funny. That's not true either. But I mean, you can't help but laugh at the absurdity.
Fuck.
But also no exceptions for a rape or incest. But incest. Incense is just fine.
Yeah. One of those things smells better than the other.
Yeah, but it's tricky because they kind of worked around it. It's not criminal; it's civil, so you can sue for $10,000 anyone who's involved in an abortion. So the person who got it, the person who drove them to the clinic, the doctors, the nurses, just anyone who is involved in a termination before or after this period, right? And they do it they started by a form of, they made a website and you could turn in people. And then if they got whatever prosecuted, you get a $10,000 headhunter or finder's fee, whatever you want to call it. So
there's going to be abortion bounty hunters.
Yeah. So
running around the great state of fucking Texas.
That website is now down.
So did this actually pass?
Well, yes. And then they offered it up to the Supreme Court. And I don't know if you've seen the trends in the Supreme Court lately where anyone can get in. but only when Republicans are in charge, apparently. So
I answered an ad on Craigslist and was this close.
Yeah.
This fucking close to being a member of the Supreme Court.
Anyway, so
Well, you like to drink beer.
anyway, so yeah. So and then they tried to get an emergency injunction from the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, "We'll wait till its time comes." So instead of getting an emergency injunction, which would stop it right away, and then they would try it, they're waiting till they actually try it to stop it, right?
Huh.
Which is a departure from what has been going
Or
on.
maybe stop it.
Maybe, right. Chief Justice Roberts, who is by de facto of being the only sane man in the room who was appointed by a Republican president, has been siding with the Democrats like crazy, but he's just siding with sane people because he's the last sane person left, because you have Kavanaugh and you have Clarence Thomas.
I don't hate Kavanaugh as much, though I don't know that much about the Supreme Court. Like, I don't watch much of the Supreme, but I do follow the Curtis Flowers story.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are familiar
I'm
with
aware
that,
of it,
but
yeah.
It was a black man who was tried 6 times for murder, and he was on death row, and he was so fucking completely innocent. But I actually was like, I listened to most of that, trial, and I thought Kavanaugh was pretty funny in it, and like, he was like,
Yeah, he drank a lot.
he was like, let me get this right. You tried him 6 times, and you dismissed all the black jurors. I think we can just adjourn right now, guys. Seriously, anybody else got a problem? But fuck it, we're out.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty, because he really was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, Clarence Thomas is pretty interesting, too. I always get him confused with Clarence Carter. But I think so does he.
I don't know who Clarence Carter is.
Clarence Carter,
you were
Clarence
stroking?
Carter.
I've been stroking.
To the left.
That awful song.
Yeah, it was in the 90s. No, but Clarence Carter, or no, Clarence Thomas, I believe, is the oldest member of the Supreme Court right now, and he was like Scalia's lapdog.
Well,
and the whole Anita Hill thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, you may remember him from the Anita Hill scandal.
yeah, and he never talks.
No, it's years. He goes years without saying or asking questions.
I just really missed RBG.
You know who I miss? Not because I miss RBG, but RBG, was friends with Scalia. And Scalia's a terrible person, but also he used the most beautiful arcane language in his like dissents. Like, like archaic uses for applesauce is BS. Like the words he used he just went deep into the English language, and
which people don't really do anymore. I miss that.
No, he and RBG
because they aren't capable to do anymore.
Yeah, well, there's lack of education. But.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, so this thing happens in Texas, and so now, Texas, a country that's concerned about children because they're last place in
is it
pretty
its own
much
country
everything.
now?
What?
If only.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, state, but they have, they're last place in, childhood mortality.
They're really good.
Fucking education,
education,
the Bible Belt, man. All those states
have
in
that
the
amazing
South.
electrical grid.
Oh yeah, that's Jesus, Texas.
But you know what they're first in? Executing retarded people.
Oh no, more than that, Kyle. They also have more
people with developmental disabilities.
I
just fucking said it that way because it fucking pisses me off anyway.
Yeah.
They have more tigers.
Private ownership.
Private ownership of
tigers.
They have more tigers than Africa. Texas got more tigers than Africa.
Well, that's because Africa isn't where the tiger's at. It's more like India, China.
Okay, in the world.
Okay.
Whatever.
I mean, I'm just... Anyway,
Texas.
So, yeah, Texas. So
that's like saying they have more tigers than Wisconsin.
So but Texas, I have a friend who's from Oklahoma that I met through my wife, and she's hilarious. So she talks about, when she was going to Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma or whatever, and they were her sorority was, or cheerleader squad was like looking at initiates, and she just loves Jesus with her whole heart. And she's like, and every one of them just love Jesus with their whole heart, And I feel like we all think that Texas just loves Jesus with their whole heart, and that's why they want to save the babies. But here's just some facts that I thought might be interesting. So I alluded to this last time I was on, and I don't like to talk about abortion a lot because it's a tricky subject. It is. Is it?
And I think like a lot of I think if you're really comfortable talking about abortion and you're a man,
yeah, there's probably
you know, because I think if you're conscientious, if you're like a conscientious man that thinks about these issues, there's a little part of you that says, God damn it, like this is kind of a women's issue that I just want to like support like women that are, and want to support their fucking right to choose and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
It really should be something that's decided only by women. It's like the men just tap out, go to the other room, women have a little conference, and why not? Why not?
No way. Okay. So, first of all, like, you're right. We are obviously coming from a place of privilege. It's just like if we want to dive into some race issues, it would probably be a good idea to have somebody in the room that has some actual life experience on race. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about race and we can't talk about race issues. It just means that we got to make sure that we do that from a place of privilege. And we're really in that same boat when it comes to abortion. But on the other hand, I completely disagree that it should only be a woman's choice, and it should only be
hyperbole, man.
But it's not, because even like basically that is pretty much the dominant liberal take, is that woman's body, woman's choice, and it's far more nuanced than that, and it should be more nuanced than that. And
is it a lot more nuanced?
I think it totally is. Let's just come up with some scenarios.
Okay.
All right. Let's say that two.
I mean, I'm not saying that it should be like exclusively the domain of women to decide this thing, but I'm, I guess what I'm saying is like that place of privilege.
This is one of the most knockdown, drag out arguments that Howard and I have ever been in. And it was at the Eclectic Cafe fucking how many ever years ago, and he was screaming at me, you, like something about baby incubator.
Oh, incubator Nazi?
That was incubator Nazi.
That's one of my go-tos for many years. The idea of forcing a woman to incubate a child against her will makes you a Nazi. Yes.
Here's
I was a younger man.
Let's say that there's two people, and the woman gets pregnant, and the man in that situation is totally like willing and able to like be the father to that baby, but she doesn't want it. So she, the way it stands right now, she has every right to get an abortion. I don't know that I think that that's wrong, but it's complicated.
Sure, yeah.
But here's the opposite side of that. Let's say that there are this young couple, like, bump uglies one night, bam, she gets pregnant. She decides that she wants to have that baby, right? The man does not want to have that baby. He's committed, like at least minimally financially committed for the next 18 years of his life. That is not a very nuanced stand. It's just black and white. And I think there's got to be more nuance. And I don't know that can become, like, I don't know how you, well, first of all, nobody even speaks that language anymore, but how do you make...
He knows how, I mean, he probably has an idea, unless he's from Texas, about how, like, reproduction works.
Well,
I mean,
maybe.
So...
50-50.
Right.
Okay. So that's a solid argument that, like...
I mean, so does she.
But... Right, okay.
She's okay with it.
Solid argument.
Now, like, if you want to get into like the financial part of it, well, then maybe you got an argument there.
Right.
But overall, I mean,
okay.
It's one of those things where like you kind of knew what you were getting yourself into,
sure.
So you can't really be mad about it after the fact.
So So it's a solid point. Like, nobody is forced to have unprotected sex. So bad on you. Okay. All right. I can kind of buy that argument. Okay. Let's say this is the scenario, though. Let's say it's a young couple, and they've been together for a while, and she's on birth control, and they're okay, everything's going fine, right? And so now the responsibility of birth control has been taken away from the guy. I mean, yes, he could still have sex with the rubber on, but then that would lead into conversations like, why are we having sex with the rubber on? Who else are you fucking, right? And then maybe either she fucks up or she stops taking her birth control because she's a cunt. And now, bam, there's a baby on the way. He has no interest in being a father. He has no ability to be a father. He has no whatever. And she decides to have the baby. Bam. Same scenario. And now, again, this is not black and white for me, right? I think there's a ton of gray here. But I take issue with it's 100% a woman's choice. It's 100% a woman's responsibility. That's a piece of a man. Now, I'm not saying it's fucking 50-50, but I'm saying
Technically it is.
There is, what, 50-50?
Genetically.
Yeah. Genetically 50. But I'm not saying the rights should be 50-50, but I'm saying that I have some, it
You
doesn't.
have a horse in that race.
Here's what it is. It doesn't taste right to me. It feels like something's off with all of that.
Yeah, but that's not really a solvable problem.
Issue. No, exactly.
Yeah.
But just because the issue is not solvable doesn't mean that it shouldn't be discussed. But you are right. Like, that's a wicked problem. You can't. Whatever.
Well,
but
fortunately,
also,
most of the women that are against abortion are women that you wouldn't want to fuck anyway.
and here's one.
That's not really. That's a Norm Macdonald. I found that to be absolutely not true.
Yeah.
Because of the whole crazy conservative thing and how attractive that is to a lot of people.
Easy women.
But here's the other thing is I have some reservations about that. But that is distracting from the actual. That having those reservations is a distraction from the actual issue. And the actual issue is, should abortion be illegal or should it be legal, I guess. And that's my reservations about the rights of men in that situation is just a tiny little.
Well, it doesn't help that the right I don't mean like not the whole right, but like the pro-life right. Even the name,
we're not including the
muddies the fucking
right.
Yeah. Even the they get so muddied and shit because they want to frame the argument in like ridiculous terms. Even that pro-life handle, like if you're not pro-life, what are you?
Yeah.
It's fucking kind of sinister. And that whole
pro-choice is the same fucking thing. If you're not pro-choice, what are you, anti-choice? I mean, that's your. So it's a marketing tool.
But the way they always want to frame it, so you think that a baby should be like, they frame it in terms that are like, they think that if you're pro-choice, well, they don't think this, but they frame it this way for dumb people. They think if you're pro-choice, then that means that like you could be in the hospital, have a baby, and you know what? 5 minutes before it's showtime, you're like, nah, cut this thing off. Fucking. And
I'm all for that. I think you should go up to the age of 5.
No shit.
Should be like the age of
the retroactive
sentience.
But
it's 48 months old.
That shit drives me crazy. Like
it's not sentient yet.
Nobody is like pro-abortion. Like, fuck yeah, awesome. Nobody's like fucking buying tickets to see abortions and shit. Like it's not something that that anyone thinks is a savory.
Well, that's just because they made it illegal.
Yeah,
but it's fucking like just that whole idea of taking someone's choice away in the matter and stuff, like an actual person instead of a fucking a zygote or whatever.
The biggest thing that bothers me about the pro-life movement is that they seem to be really, really concerned about the life of an unborn baby, but they don't seem to have.
Fuck them once they get
here. They give
here.
two shits about the life of a born baby, and
it's the hypocrisy which is so bothersome. Like
right.
It's just and it's so strong. And
you know how many pro-life women I know that have had abortions themselves? They just don't like the idea for other people. I mean. They're significant. I mean, and it wasn't always just women that slept with me because, It's understandable in those circumstances. But
And they often frame it in I made this mistake, and I don't want other people to because I felt guilt or whatever for it, which is, I think what we're missing.
and if it happened again, they would make another mistake, and they would fucking feel the same way afterwards.
I honestly don't know a whole lot of people who've had abortions that have told me about them. Whatever. But
I usually bring it up before every one night stand.
No, okay. So what I want to talk about is
Before we do this, I just want to know, how do you feel about abortion? Because I don't plan on wearing one. And I'm just kidding. Like,
Got plan C, plan B, plan A. No.
So you're talking a lot about the financial responsibility of the child and stuff like that, which is, it's legitimate because our society has created a culture where there's not a lot of support out there for having a child.
There's none.
There's some, but there's not a lot.
We as a country have pretty minimal social safety.
Yeah, exactly.
And which is ridiculous for the richest country in the world.
But that's where all my tax money goes, isn't it?
Yeah.
No.
Right? Isn't that what I keep reading? Like fucking.
Well, if there was just free daycare for single parents could change the world, because that would allow them to go to school, get a good education, or for just young parents in general, or any parents.
The thing that drives me crazy about all of these issues is they are all fiscally conservative. Like we know that investing in pre-K, right, is a 10-to-1 return on your investment. It's like the most important investment a society can make, or has the biggest rate of return, and that's a fiscally conservative thing to do. Or one of the things that drives me crazy is the whole idea of we can't do universal health care because we don't want them fucking illegal aliens to come and use our health care. Okay, well, if you don't have universal health care, then those illegal aliens are still going to just go to the doctor, and then you'll just pay for it.
I have some numbers.
So
for
you get to pay 100% of it rather than.
Yeah. I got a quick story about our social our social safety net thing as it pertains to single mothers and stuff.
Obviously, John, we're never going to let you get to your notes.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
So I used to work with this guy, and then and then we used to drink and shit. Like I'd run into him downtown and stuff, and he was. We were on Facebook, and he's ranting and raving about welfare queens.
Exxon.
And I'm like, right? So he's talking about welfare queens and shit, and ranting and raving. And I'm like, but I used to work with this guy, and I know his story. And I'm like, hey, did you ever get caught up on your child support? Yeah. And he's like, no. What does that have to do with anything? And I'm like, not a thing, bro. Not a thing. Forget I said anything.
Right.
And I just left it at that. And it took a lot of fucking willpower to leave it at that, but I wanted people to fucking read it and be like, motherfucker, and hopefully the light went on for someone out there,
So, okay, here's the facts I brought. I got these. I'll tell you my source. It was Phil Victor. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's the VeggieTale guy, right? And he's got a podcast called Sky and Phil and the Holy Post. And they're fairly liberal. They don't like abortions, but they are very realistic on humans being people, Right. And they gave an example of what happens if Roe versus Wade is overturned, right?
Yeah.
And so if Roe versus Wade is overturned, we go to a patchwork system where it's state by state.
Right.
Roe versus Wade doesn't make it illegal to have abortion or legal to have abortion. It just says, it makes it legal.
It basically just says that no state can pass a law saying you can't have an abortion.
And there's states that actually have laws on the books that say it's illegal, that if Roe versus Wade got overturned, they would immediately become illegal.
And there are many states where it's all but illegal.
Yeah, and then there are states where it is enshrined in law that it is legal, like California, most of the East Coast,
right.
I think,
right.
Michigan, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's behind that. Nobody wants more Californians.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so if Roe v. Wade was overturned, a good estimate, a high end, would be 12% reduction in abortion in this country, right? Which really, it's less, but compared to, I'll give you an example, in 2011 to 2014, Texas, they created a lot of laws, and of course not including the one they most recently passed, that managed to reduce the abortion rate by 28%, right?
Okay.
28% is quite a bit. And that, of course, isn't including how many go to other states and got it there, right?
Yeah, that was actually my question is
Yeah.
In Texas, if you were to go to another state and have an abortion, you couldn't be civilly sued for that?
Well, it's probably
You
illegal.
might be under the new law.
It's probably
That's what I
illegal to
was
take
saying.
a woman across state lines down there anyway.
Yeah, well, unless she's your cousin or, a minor. Anyway, so Delaware, though, during 2014 to 2017, it's a small
Yeah.
state. They just enacted better health care, especially for, people for IED, not IEDs.
IEDs.
An IED will do it too.
Yeah, but and
It's
they
just
saw
a more aggressive form of birth control.
so they made healthcare more accessible and saw a 37% reduction in abortion without changing any laws about
Right.
abortion. Right. So my thing is, if you make birth control more accessible instead of like Brainerd, where you can't give away free condoms because Brainerd.
Is that for real?
Yeah, ask Amanda about it.
I don't know.
They had that thing going on a
I
few
give
years
them
ago.
away all the fucking time.
But they had some organization, and I think they were bought with maybe city or state money or whatever.
Well, I think that
Yeah,
is true,
yeah.
and also you can't do it at any. So, like, in my day job,
Yeah.
I give a lot of condoms away to kids.
Yeah.
But I don't. But we can't go to anything that has to do with a school. You can't be giving condoms out.
Yeah.
You can't go to anything that's publicly funded if we have whatever.
But you probably had them out at the nursing home. That's probably fine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but not at schools.
Right.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
I know. It makes no sense
Yeah,
at all.
okay.
But I mean,
Can we hand them out at some of the bars around here?
Not a bad idea either.
well, not in my job capacity, but yes, we should.
Okay, so anyway, my point is, so if you make birth control more accessible, if you make healthcare or daycare more readily available, so having a child doesn't set you back 30 years in becoming a financially independent adult.
So, if you believe that once conception happens, that's a living life and a soul, and it should be protected. I guess I can't. There's no argument that I can have against that.
Oh,
I mean,
because-
if you believe it, you believe it. It is what it is.
Oh, I have an argument.
Well, no, you might be able to make a biblical argument about it or
Okay.
something like that, but you can't. If I say once conception happens, that is a soul and we need to protect it. Okay, I accept that argument.
Yeah.
I don't believe that argument, but I accept that argument.
Yeah.
But I cannot also then accept the argument that we shouldn't be giving out birth control because that's going to stop those conceptions.
I can see where the Catholics get that from. I don't
Okay.
agree with it, but I see where it comes
That's
from.
very difficult.
Yeah.
But then, okay.
I don't know if
okay.
all sperm is sacred,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure mine is.
But if
I hear music and shit.
if I
Are those
can,
angels singing?
if I can accept that argument,
That's me.
which to me seems ridiculous. And I mean, when I
Yeah.
say birth control, I don't just mean. I mean giving people access to family planning, to
Healthcare, daycare.
But
yes.
if you're like, no, we can't give out rubbers because that God's seed won't be able to bloom. Okay, all right, fine. I'll give you both of those. But then, to not be willing to give the person who now has the unwanted child, right, the ability to raise that child in anything other than fucking poverty.
And
Now you lost me. You have no moral argument there.
well, and then their argument is often adoption. But have you seen the foster system? I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the
Right.
foster system.
Okay, so that is definitely an option if you're white,
Yeah.
right? That
Oh, yeah.
helps
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
I mean, God forbid you have a baby of color. Oh, well, I mean, and hopefully he's white too.
Yeah.
And because there's a good chance that Brad and Angelina won't find you.
Yeah.
right. And B, that you aren't that you're not using a bunch of chemicals. I mean, because man, if you have a child that has
birth defects, that baby's in the system,
or fucking fetal alcohol syndrome, right? You just upped the chances of that child never leaving the
Foster care system, yeah.
And
well, you know where else you find a shitload of unwanted babies? And this makes sense because of Texas. Prison.
Oh, yeah.
In Texas, they love them some prisons. They love punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a fucking great place to find unwanted children.
And then lastly, I mean, well, I know that the world is super underpopulated, and it's really our responsibility as a
to
species
go forth and be fruitful,
to try to make sure that we fill the fucking fishbowl to absolute capacity. But god damn it, like I think we've got to the point where so I've been listening to this fucking. Well, did you listen to the first couple episodes of the of the second season of It Could Happen Here? Right?
Okay.
Didn't you? The one about where he starts
first one, yeah.
Talk about global warming, where he's doing the global warming thing. And I also listened to a bunch of other podcasts, a bunch of global warming podcasts. One's how to save the planet, which is they really try to be cheery, and they only talk
not selling that very well, are they?
Oh god, they want to try so hard. They're like, this is going to be a podcast about solutions. We're only going to talk. We're fucked. Oh my god, we're fucked.
Like, what was that sound? Did his co-host just shoot himself? I think he shot himself.
I seriously, in the first fucking episode of the podcast, the co-host started crying, and it was like, yeah, what's her name? The chick, Greta, the girl who like.
Oh yeah.
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, and she was watching.
That people say such hateful shit about, and I'm like. Yeah, you're talking about a young girl trying to be an activist and like maybe save the planet and shit.
And
she, like just trying to.
And they were telling this story, the co-hosts, and then all of a sudden she starts fucking crying, and then he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "It's just that it's so bad, and there's this girl who's trying so hard to make a difference, and we're fucked." You know, it's not exactly what happened, but I was like, "How to save the planet?"
That's the gist of it. You know, and the thing is, like. This, I mean, there are still ways to like offset this and turn it from like a fucking global catastrophe to something that, you know, maybe just some of us will
giant pain in the ass.
Yeah. It might not be a fucking global extinction.
We
type
really
thing,
are.
You know?
We're looking at is our future the road, or is it a last Babylon?
Yeah.
Like. It's really.
And do you remember the people? You remember all the climate change deniers that were a lot louder, like a while back? They're not now, although they're still out there. I know they're still out there. I was gonna when I get out of Facebook jail, I'm gonna post something about that again, just so that I can count them up, like I like to do with the real shit bags every once in a while.
Make a list.
But I on that same podcast, I'm almost current. Like I'm almost caught up with that. But they, one of the great things that I heard, and I think it was just this morning, that they said was, you can be one of those politicians that is, you know, that talks all about it. You can be really, you know, the liberal guy, the fucking environmental guy, and all that shit. And you can be the fucking climate denying guy.
I don't get my bug assault.
You can be like the climate denying guy that's, you know, like on the other side of the aisle, you know, but you guys have the same job and you're on total separate ends there. But what you've done, like what each of those guys have done, makes them pretty much even. You know, like that. Like there's no fucking like that fucking guy that like pays lip service to it and shit. You know, and fucking, you know, and even believes in it and stuff. But like, what has he done compared to what the other guy's done? He hasn't really done shit either. So I mean, we can't really fucking gloat too much. I know I can't, because like, I'm a believer, but what the fuck have I done? Have I done anything great? Have I made any impacts? Have I even changed the fucking way I live? Oh, I took the recycling outside. Fucking big win.
The thing is that, like,
So, I mean, we should all get on board at the
when
same
you have
time.
an industry, like the fossil fuel industry, literally hiring the same team that worked for the tobacco industry, right? And I mean, this
that should
is
tip
true.
people off.
And then the people, and not all of them, obviously, but the thing that really bugs me is the kind of the libertarian kind of like, don't tell me to get a vaccine. Don't tell me that I can't like burn my garbage outside or whatever.
I don't need no muffler. Fuck you.
It's like wait a second, like this giant industry bought this message and you swallowed it.
Yeah.
You're a fucking shill. Like, good job.
Well, it's so much.
I am angry as fuck today.
Yeah, you just need to.
I like it.
Calm down a bit. But no, the problem is so much of what's going on is on the surface. You think you know what's going on. It's like the NRA, right? Where you think the NRA is just a bunch of assholes who want guns and they're fighting for your rights for guns, right? The NRA is a marketing tool, right? That is in backroom deals giving away your gun rights and then collecting money on the other side to fight to get them back.
Yeah.
I mean, but on the surface, you think you know what they are. On the surface, you think you understand about, oh, no, oil makes sense because they've told me oils make sense and all our cars use oil. And it seems to me like it would be really hard to switch over, but I don't know shit about logistics, so I'm just going to believe it when they tell me that. Right?
Well, it would be really hard to switch over. The thing is it's
remember when we switched
it's
over to light bulbs? That was really hard too, but it's pretty awesome.
No, it's actually kind of the opposite though. You're literally asking. So here's the deal. All right, we're asking people to sacrifice something, and God knows that's impossible to do because we asked them to sacrifice a little something in COVID. And they were like, we can't be doing that.
They're dicks. Okay, but I don't even think you're asking them to sacrifice that much. Have you seen? Okay, I got to talk about. I'm not a big Elon Musk fanboy, right? But
I like him.
Do you know what the Model S Plaid, right? This is the new release. It is the fastest production car on the road, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't know the Teslas were even fast until I saw one like pull out onto the highway in front of me like less than a year ago.
No,
well, I mean, I'd heard that they were fast, but I didn't appreciate. Like, I pull up and he's like, we're going onto the highway, and I fucking like end quiet, and I'm like, I look left, I look back, and he's gone. Yeah. And I mean,
0
gone.
So
he's so fucking far away. I'm
1.9. Faster than a Bugatti, faster than a McLaren, faster than Lamborghini, and it's a 4-door car with a full-size trunk and a little extra trunk up front, right? And it's gray and clothy interior. It's about 100,000, 130, and it is way better than anything that's on the road.
Joe Rogan talks about his Tesla all the time, but I mean, he says it's you can't really call it a car. Like, it's a different experience. It's like driving a, I don't know, like spaceship. It's not really a car. It's like, yeah. And he's into cars. Yeah. And he's like, I fucking don't. But he's like, it's just a totally different.
But I watched the review from a muscle car guy, and he's like, yeah, people are going to make fun of me, but this thing will put you through the back of your seat.
Right. Okay, John. But we're at that point right now. And I actually think we're past that point right now. But let's pretend we can hold the climate to a less than 2 degree increase.
Seems unlikely, but yeah.
It seems unlikely. And 2 degrees is catastrophic.
Yeah.
But
Celsius, right? We're talking Celsius.
Whatever. Yeah, the 2 degree increase that they
5
are.
degrees.
Yeah. What was it? 1.5 that the
stuff goes to hell. Yeah.
1.5 is what the Paris Accord was trying to hold everything.
Yeah,
to.
we're gonna have to move that goalpost a little because we're like already standing in the shade of it.
Yeah.
Right. And no.
That's the only shade to be
no
had because all the plants are on fire.
Climate scientist thinks 1.5 is a possibility right now.
Yeah.
So hold to 2. Let's just hold to 2. And in order to do that, it means sacrifice. Immediate sacrifice. right now.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Now, is a Tesla a fucking awesome car? Absolutely. But I don't think Oprah Winfrey is going to be, and you get a Tesla, and you get a Tesla.
Right.
I mean, but I will vote for president.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
because
yeah. No, absolutely.
I'm really hoping for a Tesla. But it's going to take a
Well, it'd be nice to have a
World War-
co-signer for the national debt.
God damn it! I'm gonna go get my bucket salt. It's gonna take a World War II style
Effort.
to fucking make the change. And I honestly just don't think we have it in us as Americans anymore, let alone as a globe. I think,
And even if like you and I, like even if the three of us do it, like Roland Cole guy with the Trump flag in his fucking, in his truck,
and that's
he's not. Going
and that's
to do
the
it.
thing is that like I think I would say 70-ish% of the people that I commonly are in contact with, like my friends group, I mean, they're all kind of on the same page and would be willing to make a personal sacrifice to, like, if they. But the problem is it's pissing in the wind at this point.
Yeah, well,
I can't-
and like how much, like how many people making like these individual sacrifices
It can't move the dial. It can't move the dial
because industry, for one,
Exactly.
like, well, if industry isn't on board, then fuck, then it really is pissing into the wind. And of course, everything at this point might be pissing into the wind.
And actually,
And adaptation is the new progress.
Right. I don't know. That might be the choice. So even the thing is I think even the messaging is fucked up about like saying, like care for the planet, recycle, care for the planet, drive less, whatever. Okay. Yep. 100%. Totally agree with all that. It won't make a fucking difference though. Care for the planet. Stop fucking taking oil out of the ground.
Yeah.
Care for the planet. I mean, we need to make giant, huge, global changes that are way outside of our personal ability to change.
People always
And
say,
I love Jordan Peterson, but cleaning my room's not gonna fucking hack it at this point, right? But I don't know what the right solution is.
Yeah.
people always cite China in their their industrial areas and stuff like that as being huge
China's
polluters.
huge.
China is doing really. I was really impressed to find out some of the stuff that China
Lots
is
of
doing.
solar.
China's
Lots
making
of solar.
super huge strides.
Yeah, big
Still
progress.
a giant polluter.
Making us look stupid.
The thing is the difference is China's is actually cleaning their shit up.
Yeah.
But they are a huge polluter. But the thing is like, I mean, I don't know. From all the shit that I've been looking at, the hold to two is pretty much impossible at this point without literally catastrophic changes, which have consequences. I mean, it's going to destroy the global economy. It's going to die. A whole shit pile of people are going to die if we make these kind of changes. But if we don't, we're fucked. And that's very happy thought.
Yeah, habitable planet, non-habitable planet. Yeah, you know.
Speaking of pissing in the wind, I'm going to go piss in the
Yeah,
toilet.
it seems
Let's
like
take a
a
quick
good
break.
idea. Yep.
We'll be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Spitballing. I'm Matt Taylor here with my good buddy.
Kyle Amundsen.
And we got Jon Howard in the house, and we're going to try to be more positive in this section.
Those of you that are still watching are still alive.
I don't
It would
want
be terrible if you lost like 10% of your viewers. too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
That would be half of one person.
That would be. That would decimate.
Yeah,
That would decimate our
decimate
viewers. So, what you wanted to talk about rich preppers?
So that with the I said we were going to be, like Matt said we were going to try to make it a little less gloomy, but
Well, I'm just going to try not to like bash my fucking head against the table.
No.
so. New Zealand has been fucking inundated by billionaires from all over the world. Now, I know the general public thinks that the whole prepper thing is silly and crazy and misguided.
I
But,
think that opinion is changing ridiculously rapidly.
It's
becoming so mainstream, the idea of prepping.
Yeah, I'm seeing.
And they're like, well, no, we're not talking about prepping. We're just saying, make sure you have, just make sure you have
enough
6 months
food
of
and
supplies.
ammo and all this shit to survive, but not prepping.
But I'm prepping. So they're
It's
going.
like, it's like how I wasn't gay in college. Yeah, but so they're buying up big chunks of New Zealand their retreats, cabins, fucking underground bunkers and shit.
The Shire.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
which that's the first thing I thought of too.
Well,
I'm like,
it's New Zealand.
I'm like, what
right?
about that
Can
big
I just
hall?
buy the Shire and live under there?
Right?
Yeah.
I think Peter Jackson actually has it.
I think it's a tourist location.
Well, he took the Shire. He took the Bilbo Baggins' house. I know
Yeah.
he personally has Bilbo Baggins' house. Yeah, that was like I don't know. I watched something about it. But yeah, so they're going to New Zealand and
Yeah. So there's a big, super wealthy prepper community, and of course they're thinking ahead. Did you listen to the episode where he talked about, or where they had a guest on, a guest who had got summoned to a meeting with some.
like he's a guy who's kind of like a
he's a tech guy,
but expert in the field of like whatever. And these billionaires like brought him in, and he was like all prepared with his PowerPoint and everything. And they were like,
and all they wanted to talk about was
the end and
how to maintain control of their private armies and stuff
right.
like that.
Should we put collars on them?
Yeah.
And all this weird shit. And he's like, what? And he was like, but I think we can do some things. And they were like, oh, no. Just so how do I control my employees? Like, that's what I need to know.
Yeah.
Like,
wanted to know, like, because these guys, like they get some private contractors, like you've built your small army of like ex-Navy SEALs and shit like that. And these guys are worried about like how
I pay
to
them
keep control of their facility and all their food that they've stockpiled and stuff like that, because they don't want these guys going and like getting all democratic and shit and like picking their own leaders and stuff. And they want to make sure that like they bought this shit, they're in charge of all that.
It's an easy solution. It's like cranial implanted, like.
I'm sure that's probably one of the suggestions that they floated.
Read a book.
Elon Musk was like, that's what the whole Neuralink's about. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
But yeah, so that's
who was the guy who just had the rocket that looked like a big dick?
That was the Amazon guy.
Amazon,
Bezos.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking.
And it didn't just look like a dick. I mean, it fucking really looked like a dick.
It was.
There's a big ugly fuel line like on the top of it.
Some fuel balls on the bottom.
and the fuel line like ran down the shaft.
Very veiny.
As soon as I saw it, I thought of fucking. Was it that Austin Powers?
2?
Yeah.
So
really,
I actually hadn't seen it, but we were in my staff meeting the other day. We were a very important conversation about this dick-shaped spaceship, and then I was like, didn't the Virgin Mobile guy just get a spaceship too?
He did it first. He beat him, and his is not.
So I say that, right, and my boss, who just perfect soft pitches me every time, she's like, yeah, I wonder what his spaceship looked like. And I was like, obviously a vagina. I'm like, and the docking was just great. It was like, it's too small, that docking. It's too small. No, just relax.
We can't find the command center. It's right there, right above the docking port. No, I can't see it.
The whole thing doesn't have to go in, just the tip.
I was like, this fucking shit writes itself.
But if you've got the money to build your own spaceship, why wouldn't you make it look like a dick?
Right. Or a vagina.
It's one of those like, hey, I'm one of the richest guys in the world. This is my spaceship. Like, what do you think his yacht looks like? Fuck,
Yeah, you'd think maybe there's some functionally more appropriate. But, if you're going to spend all that money, like, why don't you make it functionally appropriate, right? You would. So that only leads me to believe that shape is functional and utilitarian.
True.
There's some sort of like universal truth about that shape and how it thrusts through the air.
Right? That's a good point.
Like maybe it was divine.
I don't know, John, but why are you curling your thumb in? Why are you trying to get that pinky?
I'm just saying
intelligent.
I was thinking about like our intergalactic invasion force and how it reminded me of that meme with the tiny white girl on the couch and the brother's like standing behind her. Anyway, or standing
I don't
behind the couch and stuff. You're not in that meme world. You don't live that meme life. But yeah. So anyway, we'll move on before I have to say anything like less overtly racist.
Are you gonna get a meme life tattoo on your stomach?
That's not a bad idea. That's a really good idea.
In that gothic font, meme life.
Like the same one that I've got my arm tattoo.
Yeah, crazy.
And then just like dye a cat below it. That doesn't know what a cat is.
No, I don't know anything.
It's like the rainbow cat, It's like It's kind of like keyboard cat or grumpy cat or little bub.
I really am not into the meme world. I don't know if it's connected to my dyslexia or whatever, but I have a really hard time with like understanding comic strips. Right? I've never been able to. I can't. I just don't get the humor in it. But if you read me a comic strip, and I mean I can read it, but it's never funny. But if you read me a comic strip, I'll laugh. I'll think it's funny. You know what I mean? So I have a hard. So a lot of times memes, I just I'm like I don't understand.
See, I feel like in my adult life I've kind of I don't appreciate comic strips as much anymore. I used to love Wizard of Id.
Well, they've gone downhill.
I don't think we were talking. What I was saying is so for memes, a lot of times the humor doesn't. I don't
the 3-cell format doesn't work for you because you can't progress from one image to another and understand the movement of time.
Do you think that's what it is?
I think I dated a girl once. You remember Deanna Larson, right?
Yeah.
She had the same problem with comic strips. She also had a lot of trouble with maps. Do you have map issues?
Maps?
Are you good at navigating on a map?
I don't know. I just tell Google to do it.
Okay, so
no. I don't.
No, okay.
I'm not good on a map.
Okay, so
yes,
somehow related. It's got to be some
and I have a ridiculously bad sense of direction, and I literally can get lost going to a place I'm gone to. I actually got turned around when I went up to your place the other day. Yep, I've been there 6 or 7 times. It's a tiny town. I know exactly where it is.
I'm on the main drag.
Wrong street. Went around. I drove around a little while.
You're dyslexic, right?
Yeah.
As am I.
Horribly,
right?
yeah.
But, okay, how are you with blueprints?
What do you mean?
Can you look at a blueprint and visualize the end product?
Yes.
Okay.
Even to the point where I can literally build stuff in my head.
In your head. Okay. So that's okay. And I can too, but I grew up with my dad was bringing home blueprints. I could read blueprints before I was, could read, and he could too because we grew up in those families. And I'm just wondering. I'm just kind of trying to get a feel of where are the lines and what causes what.
This woodworking project that I just did, I basically just drew out this cabinet and they were like, yeah, that sounds cool and whatever. But then you got to go build it, and it's a lot different building the goddamn thing than sketching it out. But I'd run into these problems of and then I'd just stop, and then I would usually I'd just move on to something else. But then by the time I'd wake up the next day, I'd always have it solved.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd sleep on it, but once you clear the brain matter up or whatever. But yeah, I don't know.
So you sketch it out. You don't use a program or anything to do it?
Nah, I just draw it out. I mean, I have a what do you call it? A drafting table.
Program. Okay.
No,
a table.
Just a table. Just a cheap one. But
I love drafting tables. I think it's because Nathan Kemka, his dad had a fucking big old drafting table that he used for his work stuff. Yeah. He's a systems analyst. Was a systems analyst? Anyway, and I always had fucking schematics and shit like that. Now I have zero use for a drafting table. No fucking use whatsoever.
But they're cool.
But I've always wanted one.
My dad had one too. Yeah,
I mean, when I say I have a drafting table, what I mean is I have this thing I bought on Amazon that's this big that the piece of paper goes in, and then it has the slide ruler thing, and it's a drafting table, but it's just a tiny little thing. But it makes it so I can draw up whatever plans without
The programs are really sweet. So Greta,
yeah, I just don't care that much to learn anything.
I was building a gaming table, right, with a built-in TV and everything, and I had it in my head, and I was just going to go buy stuff. And Greta, who's designer. It's all
Right.
like, oh, we got to do this. And she like throws it into the computer quick, and it like prints out the parts list, and you can have different views of it with the different, like, this is where your 2x4s go. This is where your 2x6s go. This is where, everything is just, and I can just go walk into Menards with the list, and I'm like, I need this, and this. And they're like, yep, ring you up.
So
Well,
she
I did it.
has this program just on her computer.
Yeah, well, it's it might be Google SketchUp. I'm
On
not
her
sure.
Mac?
No, she doesn't use Mac. No, well, she grew up using Macs, but it's not an industry standard anymore.
So
for,
she,
we talked about this
I
last
know,
time.
Yeah.
So but this is like she has this program like that she like. Well,
I think it's free.
I'm gonna have to.
I think it's Google SketchUp.
I absolutely do not want to learn how to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I absolutely want to
that
have
program.
Greta do it for me
Okay,
when I
yeah.
have a project, because that'd be really handy.
It's
Because actually coming up with your fucking
all your cuts and everything ahead of
I was
time.
pretty
Yeah.
impressed. So like I did that all. I worked it all out. I
Yeah.
went and I actually got all the wood at this at a local sawmill. Which was great because it saved a ton of money. Like
Interesting.
the holy shit to build this thing by going to like Home Depot.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have had like $4,000 in materials before I even
Oh, yeah.
started. So I don't know exactly how much the sawmill stuff cost, but it was drastically reduced. But anyway, so I made a list and then I went and got it. I had like 2 leftover 1x and like 3 leftover 2x4s. Like that was it. I mean, I was like I fucking nailed it. So, which is pretty. I mean, on a thing that big,
Yeah.
that was pretty.
And it was
incredible.
enormous.
Yeah, it
That thing was
enormous.
cool.
That was fun.
I was impressed.
Yeah. So what else were we talking
Oh,
about? We-
Robert Evans.
Yeah, the podcast. And actually, I did want to talk, and I know you probably haven't got to this part, but let's just throw out about the fucking the religious right.
I'd never heard of the
head.
term dominionist. before.
Dominionist. Have you ever heard
I've
of them
never.
before?
No.
So apparently, what's that fucking douchebag's name who was running for president with the beard?
Cruz?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ted
yeah,
Cruz.
yeah.
So
Oh
apparently,
yeah, his dad is a big.
well,
or
and
what
he
was,
is
or
as well.
whatever.
But yeah, so apparently Ted Cruz's father is really big in this movement.
Yeah, it's that whole like dominion over like everything. Like
Oh,
these
yeah,
are like this is all here for us, and we're going to inherit it.
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And they are really, really fucking scary. Like they have this pretty radical, like, well, basically that's what they believe. They believe that God has given Christians and specific Christians like dominion over the earth and basically can like whatever. And they were in the podcast. They were playing some, fucking what do they call them? Sermons, or whatever.
Some scary ones, yeah.
Some super hateful shit.
Yeah, because they're like, of course, like a group like that, and they're so they bump up against white supremacists and shit like that, and they all fucking go to the same barbecues and shit. But yeah, they're like the they're like the opposite of. I just learned about. I learned a lot about the Mormons when I was listening to Ted Koppel's book Lights Out.
Oh, we just read.
And they're like the ultimate preppers. Like their whole
Yeah.
fucking society
Yeah.
is like
Oh.
insulated and ready for shit.
Well, you remember in The Expanse, like the whole the Mormon
Yeah.
ship. Or
I didn't even
whatever?
think about.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't even
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about
That
that.
is
Yeah.
that was totally in line
Yeah.
with Mormon beliefs. Like they, first of all, Mormons like, and I don't know a shit pile about Mormons other than the
magic underwear
the
and
sparkly
shit,
underpants, which was super funny because I like thought that was totally common knowledge, and even my sister was like I fucking didn't know about sparkly underpants.
Are they sparkly or just magic? I don't feel like they sparkle. They're like a grayish.
I assume they sparkle.
I mean,
Probably just when the magic is engaged.
Yeah. right before copulation.
I am pretty sure that they are exactly like the Doctor Strange cape.
But there's a
Like-
lot of weird shit in there. Like there's
Just
a lot of
like the
weird stuff
fly
in there.
opens itself up.
Yeah, like right. Like, and you can command it. But okay, Okay, but other than
I have
that,
an image in my head that's just.
I also know that they have like the idea, like they pretty commonly believe that there are other intelligent life in the universe, and that we are just one piece of whatever. I mean, actually, a lot of their beliefs are pretty like okie dokie.
And the Mormons, I don't know if they get enough credit for like the good work that they do, but they're a pretty fucking. I mean, they've a lot of philanthropic endeavors. They give a lot.
They do the heraldry, the ancestry thing is like a big piece. Like they research ancestry of their people and people all over the country to like try to. I don't know. It's also total BS. Like if you've seen that South Park episode,
just because something's BS.
So we just Greg
Yes,
and I
of
were
course.
listening to
Dum, dum,
Under the
dum,
Banner of
dum.
Heaven, which is a book. I don't know what the guy. It was something she picked up on, and it's kind of the history of the Mormon people, told by an outsider. Or from an outside point of view, as opposed to this all totally makes sense, and it's pretty effed up.
Some crazy shit. Super crazy. And then they've had kind of at least parts like their militia and stuff. Pretty some atrocities. Garden or was that Meadows? That massacre that they
is that the
tried to blame on the Indians?
Missouri, right?
Was that it?
Yeah, because they basically pulled their own hit. Well, they had moved to Missouri first from wherever they're from, Pennsylvania or whatever.
Yeah, they had a couple of stops before they
kind of settled in there, and they got a pretty big population, and then they got some officials, and things went a little south, and then no one liked them, and things got awkward, and that was like I don't know. End of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, I think. I'm trying to remember it as best I can. But anyway, and then they went to Utah from there because they basically weren't welcome anymore because it turns out they were kind of dicks. I mean, there's some weird stuff.
But they massacred a wagon train. No, not when I say they, I mean like this militia group that this Mormon militia group
and
massacred this wagon train and like slaughtered these fucking people, kept the children, and then like later on, some of the kids they grew up and they're like, so anyway, when I was little, these people fucking slaughtered my family and took me and fucking raised me. You know.
But
that's that kind of shit.
When was that? That was. I mean, not to justify anything, but shit kind of happened a lot back then. And
and they were the victims of some atrocities as well.
I mean, they aren't the only ones. I mean, what are we discovering with these Indian schools up in Canada where they're just digging up mass graves of hundreds and hundreds of dead Native American children?
Yeah,
that's. We're not innocent, and
there was that group of Mormons just recently that went to Mexico. Do you guys remember hearing about that?
Were those ones that got killed?
Yeah, they got fucking killed by the group, but they went down there to basically so they could
mission.
Well, no, so they they settled there, right? And then because they wanted to have polygamy and all that stuff, and they were a little more of a traditional sect, and then they got fucking wiped out.
Mm-hmm. So. I had these Mormons show up at my house one day when I was taking a nap, and it was like on a Saturday, and I'm like, oh no, come back later. So they came back and I had a little chat with them, and because I'll give anyone some time, and I was a little interested. And this is 3-4 years ago, before times. Anyway, so they came in and they were all like, hey, you're into baseball. Yeah. Did you know Bryce Harper Bryce Harper's a Mormon? And I'm like, get the fuck out. Because I hate that fucker. No, that's mostly true. Like, after that, they were just like, yeah, Bryce Harper's a Mormon. And I'm like, oh, these guys can be assholes too. Like, I'm not super interested.
Do you guys remember that documentary about the Mormons, though? That really good one? Orgasmo? Yeah.
That's the one.
Actually, though, it really kind of is a good like
It's
explanation of like how Mormons like go out into the community and like try to do they call it proselytizing? Is that what they call
yeah,
it?
they go out and
Or witnessing, I guess. Yeah.
They do missions. They go
Yeah,
missions. Yeah,
but they go out and then
we have a friend of the family, and he was kind of in foster care growing up, and he ended up in a Mormon family, and they treated him really well, and he became a Mormon, and he did all the Mormon stuff, and he's a Mormon now. But in his mission, he knew sign language because his grandmother was deaf, so they sent him to L.A. to homeless shelters, just doing good work.
Yeah,
And-
but they also like are trying to like talk to you.
Oh yeah,
about
absolutely.
Mormonness.
But they're all while they're doing it, they're like helping people with their yard work and stuff. I mean, it's what Christians do when they go over to Africa and stuff.
And
we're
like,
going to build you a church. I mean, well, a hospital would be nicer, but sure, yeah, church is good.
So
That reminds me of another meme. Like fucking showing up at a like after a hurricane or some big disaster somewhere in the world. Like, thank you for the Bible. It looks delicious. Oh shit!
I mean, and if we go back to that South Park episode, so they do the history of the Mormonism.
another great documentary.
Yeah, another great. Well, it is.
It is like.
And
a
at the
documentary.
end, they're like, "All this shit is true." But then at the end, like Kyle goes over to his house and he's like, "Oh, your family's crazy. Your religion's crazy." He's like, "Yeah, we believe a lot of crazy shit. So tell me about what your family believes." So he was on a cross, I mean. We all believe some kind of stupid shit, and a lot of it comes from sketchy sources. Like the Bible's, I mean, I consider a good source, but there's also people like, just pick your mega church, Joel Osteen. Like, there is not like the definitive dirtbag. Like, be like Jesus, and no one's coming in my church when there's a hurricane. And check out my house. And,
The one that blows my mind, and is L. Ron Hubbard. Come on, Scientology.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's there's all these fucking crazy ass religions that have done, that are like have so much, and then like somebody in relatively recent times was like, hey, I'm just gonna like write my own.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm a horrible writer, so it's going to be just as fucking crazy and confusing and ridiculous as all of the old religions. It's like, dude, you couldn't have started all. You couldn't have
in the beginning, people weren't dicks, and maybe you shouldn't be. That's my religion. I'm gonna write. Just don't be a dick. I mean, I know others
I think
tried
Jesus,
to say that, but
it's pretty much what. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but somehow that got lost in the last 2,000 years for most Christians.
Yeah, they used
somehow it's all about like forcing women's bodies to incubate other people's eggs or whatever.
I think it was the fancy words. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't be using fancy words. Just don't be a dick.
Well, language evolves across 2,000 years.
Oh my God! So I saw on Facebook today, I think, my brother. God damn, he put some fucking stupid shit out there. But it was this meme, and it was, hey, I got this one. It was this one because it wasn't fucking funny, and it was actually kind of was, and it was like this person getting a shot in their arm, right, and then this other person. Could be a famous person, we don't really know, and then like their hand out, and then like with a fucking spike through their hand, which I was already like taking issue with hand. I mean, it's got to be wrist. You're just gonna
right.
We just know.
Yeah, just
nobody was
tear it
ever
out.
crucified through the hand. Okay.
Yeah.
But he was like, and then it said like, you trust in this, I'll trust in this.
So this brings me to an interesting point about the Bible and language. So a lot of people take the Bible to be literal, right? And which is interesting because there's a lot of different translations out there. And most recently, I saw someone take issue with a portion of the Bible, which I'm pretty familiar with. But I'm going to give an example that people are probably more familiar with. We have the Seraphim, right? Seraphim are and the cherubim are the angels of the Old Testament, right?
Yeah. Well, they were on the top of the Ark of the Covenant. The two seraphim.
Yes. Yep. So they describe I'm going to mix them up because I'm dyslexic and I mess these up. One is animals with wings. The other is
Seraphims are
and cherubims are the
Babies.
kind of human. No, those are cherubs. Are the kind of humans, but they have 6 sets of wings, right? Or 3 sets of wings, 6 wings, right? And they talk about it covers their feet, right? One on the front, one pair on the front, one pair on the back, and then a pair covering the feet, right? And you'll see them drawn like that. But
I'm unfamiliar with that at all. All I know is about the
okay.
either.
Covering the feet is a euphemism for covering your genitals, right? They had euphemisms in the Bible. It's like people who take the Bible literally, and then they forget about that part where Jesus is describing sowing seeds and the ones that take root and the ones that don't take root and all stuff like that. And someone's like, "I don't get it, Jesus," and he's like, "It's an analogy. Here, let me explain it to you." And then he explains that these seeds are these groups of people and these seeds are that group. So we know Jesus talks in an analogy. We know there's euphemisms in the Bible, right? But so there's a Numbers 5, which is the Old Testament, verses 11 through 31, right? And it talks about if you think your wife's cheating on you, she goes to the temple, and then the priest will prepare a concoction, and she'll drink that, and he'll write some stuff on paper, and she'll take a vow and stuff like that. And then basically she will miscarry if the child wasn't yours, right? I mean, it actually uses the word miscarry in some translations. Some of it says her womb will expel something, and some use the term like, oh, the bloat on her thigh will reduce, right? And then the people who are just super, like, there's no way there was abortion in the Bible, are all like, well, no, it's just a translation. You got to go to this one archaic translation where it says the bloat on the thigh, and every translator's like, yeah, the bloat on the thigh means, the womb is miscarrying, right? The bloat on the thigh reduces, right? So,
okay.
So,
okay, so, wait now. So, back in the day, if your wife was cheating on you, you'd bring her to this priest, he'd make her a concoction, and then
write some stuff, there'd be a chanting.
Right, and if she was pregnant with a baby that wasn't yours, it would abort the
It would
fetus.
miscarry, yeah. Abort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, there's a huge difference between miscarry and abort?
Yeah, but won't...
Really? Because
No, not really.
Because
Because
if you take some RU486, it's called the abortion.
Yeah.
Not the miscarry pill.
Right. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So people will tell you on both sides, one side will say, there was no abortion in the Bible. What are you talking about? And the other side will say, oh, no. Then they'll point to the New Testament where God knew the number of fingers that were on our hands. And he counted our fingers and toes while we were still in the womb, right? And they'll give that as their evidence. But they totally disregard numbers.
But what if you didn't? What if it's like a zygote? They don't have fingers.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's almost like it's a difficult subject that we've come back around to, because I never got to use that when we talked about the first time.
It's almost as if there's some nuance.
It's almost as though the Bible really isn't a guide for whether or not you should,
It's a guide for a lot of stuff. Yeah, I recently was brought to my attention there is a passage where they talk about, if you have leprosy, you cover your lower face with cloth, and you yell out unclean, unclean wherever you go, so people stay away from you, and you live outside of the village.
Lower face, that's a euphemism for the vagina. Or no, that's lower mouth. My bad.
Those lower lips, Matt. Anyway, or mouth. Yeah.
Depends if there's teeth.
But yeah, no, I mean, all that stuff's in there. And they just choose to disregard it.
Huh. Wait. I stopped listening. I was making a joke.
That's cool.
Unclean.
Unclean, unclean. Live outside the village. Cover your face with a cloth.
Oh, you're talking about anti-maskers.
Yeah.
Anti-maskers.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So it's social distancing. It's masking. It's in the Bible. But
yeah. But
Matthew,
people
I
cherry
believe,
pick like a
motherfucker.
Yeah. Like the whole. How many shekels? If you rape a girl.
Yeah, no.
She has to marry you, and you have to pay her father X. How many shekels? Or
I'm sure it's in there. It's very completist.
And I was like, geez, that seems like a really exact number. What if there's what if there's circumstances?
And a pretty fantastic deal, right? Actually, though, I do So I listened to this Jordan Peterson fucking biblical lecture series. It got pretty deep into it. I mean, it was gazillions of hours long, but it was really interesting. But they were talking about actually that specifically about how back when we were super tribal.
Yeah.
Yesterday?
2020.
Yeah.
No, but back when we were super tribal as a species, if something happened, you raped my sister, right?
Yeah.
It's a blood feud, right?
Yeah,
so
and
now
everyone
I have
dies.
to kill you, and then your family has to take revenge on me, and now we're in World War.
Well, that's
III.
more understandable than the stuff like that passages in the Bible that I
No,
was talking about.
but this is mate.
Yeah.
Let me come around.
All right.
I see where
So
you're going. Yeah.
what? So that was the way it was, and a lot of those things, right? Like the agreement that if you rape my sister, well, now you have to.
Pay
the law
it.
says you have to pay me and marry my sister, right?
And there's no feud.
And there's no feud. So what a lot of those early laws were was
yeah.
they were like, and they do seem ridiculous, but they were a way of stopping blood
Yeah.
feuds in the next war,
Well, and
or
the-
else we would just always constantly being at war.
And there's other things like that, like not eating pork makes a whole lot of sense if you're a society that
With no
doesn't-
refrigeration.
Yeah,
and
yeah. And,
sketchy curing of meats.
yeah, and you not having a container hold milk more than once. Because they don't have glaze, it's porous,
Right.
and the milk gets in there. I mean, a lot of that stuff is just like good living practices,
Right.
Because it wasn't just,
Especially at the time.
It wasn't all divinely inspired. It was also the accounting of building a temple, running an empire. There's parts that will tell you, like if you read Kings, there's some pretty boring chunks about how much the daily logistics of running the empire of David, David's kingdom, and it, lays out, this many oxes from this province, this many pounds of grain from this province, and that's what they did every year, and that was what was necessary to do that. I mean, plus their history.
And I find that stuff really interesting. I guess
Yeah.
the problem that I have is how does that then give me any kind of fucking guidance for how to live my life today?
A lot of it doesn't, because it's their history. It's like they're making a record, so 2,000 years from now, we can recreate
history.
the temple. We can know what their daily life was like.
Right.
Yeah.
And Herodotus wrote some cool shit too.
Yeah.
I just don't want to. I don't understand how that gets to be a model for a religion. I mean, that's the part
No, that's
that gets
the filler. It's a filler. I mean,
Well, right, but then you have many people going to obscure passages that are full of fucking hate and vitriol,
Yeah.
and using those to justify hate and vitriol.
It's almost like you need to approach it with some common sense and with some appreciation for the
Can't.
times that have changed in between and modern
It
society.
can't be done.
and-
Oh my god!
yeah.
Since I brought up Herodotus, I got to bring this up. So I was at work a while ago, and there was and my boss's boss, who we don't always see eye to eye,
Yeah.
but there was some talk about something, and I made some point about history, and she said, and goddamn it, I was so fucking pissed, but she goes, "Well, man, history is just his story," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure the etymology of that word has nothing to do with Herodotus."
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty sure he wasn't the father of history, Herodotus
And-
history. Yeah, I got to go to the bathroom. I just had to get up and fucking leave. I was like, I mean, you could say some pretty stupid shit, but when
Yeah.
you start fucking making up the etymology of words, that's just where I draw the line.
Well, and we talked about this. It's the difference between Western or us and European feminism, right? This is when my cousin is a sociology professor. And
When
she's-
did we talk about this?
It was sitting here.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and at 9th Street.
Okay, so
Our favorite
Western.
waterfall. So in the United States, you'll hear a lot of it's a personal cover, and that's the feminist movement, right? It's not a manhole cover, it's a personal cover, and that's a big issue.
right.
And in Europe, you hear, I just want to be paid the same. You know,
Right.
there's a certain practicality that is focused on in
That's right.
Instead of the fucking silly minutia,
Like
the fucking
his
non-arguments.
story, Yeah.
I think that's right, because I think I was talking about personal pronouns of it.
Oh yeah, we talked
So
about that.
I don't think we talked about this on here before, but I read this book a while ago, and it wasn't that great of a book, but it was about this alien species, or about the, it was about the, it was a sci-fi book, and they were alien species, and a lot of the different alien species, they didn't have a gender. They just were, whatever,
Genderless. Non-binary.
genderless.
Non-binary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they like in some species, would one, they would like
you
switch
just-
a gender, depending upon whatever.
Jurassic
So
Park. We've all
they
seen
didn't have any
Jurassic Park,
fucking, they didn't have any gender. So they just all referred to him as it, right? And it was really weird at first, right? I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. They're saying, and then it came over and did this, and then it did that. And I was like, oh, that was kind of weird. But then after a short period of time, I got totally used to it. And I was like, fucking A, I just solved the fucking personal pronoun issue. Just get rid of he and she, get rid of they and zed, and just go with it. It doesn't even have a tense, right? You only need one. You don't need to say, my personal pronouns are he, him. No, it's fucking it. It's it. I'm it.
It said it will do.
It said it will do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no tense to the pronoun, and it covers everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that the problem is that we gender things. Period. That our language genders things. Period. And since we have a living language that can be changed, let's just fucking change it and go with it.
Fucking gendered
Because
objects were what killed me in German.
Well, the thing is gender's super confusing.
Yeah. Why is the table a she or a he? Who knows? How can I tell?
Right. And we don't do it a shit pile in English.
No.
There's tons of remnants of it, but
Like
it's
boats are still she's and for a
but
lot
you
of
don't.
people.
But I mean, like
it still works with mail plans.
what?
Mail plans.
Mail planes? I don't get it.
The Three Amigos.
No.
It's a mail plane. How can you tell? Didn't you see the little balls? And then he's fucking cracking up and
Plane. Mail, like an airplane?
Yeah, like post office airplane, mail plane.
In the
but then
Three
he's like,
Amigos?
yeah. It's when they're
it's a spectacular scene.
I remember
they're with El
seeing it.
Guapo, and El Guapo just got a
fucking-
sweater.
Goddamn, in like Steve Martin's character.
Yeah, I
is
mean, I
like-
remember the movie, but
or wait,
goddamn.
which one of them? No, it was Chevy Chase's character that like just didn't get it, and like fucking Martin Short and Steve Martin are just cracking the fuck up, and then Chevy Chase is like, he like pretending that he got it and shit, and fucking it's a good scene. It's solid.
I'm gonna have to look on
85,
YouTube.
I
That's
think.
it. I remember that going to see that movie.
Yeah.
Like in the theater.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater too, and
I was a pretty young kid.
I hated it, but then I watched it at home with my friends, smoked up like a motherfucker.
Oh,
Like me
it's
and Nathan
one of
and our
those.
buddy
Gotta be high
Elrod.
as fuck.
But then I watched it many times, like not high, and it was still funny as fuck. Still passed the test. I don't know. I just didn't appreciate it the first time that I watched it. But so many good scenes. It is a fucking amazing movie.
Okay. Before we get back on track, I want to talk about a movie I rewatched.
Yes.
That was fantastic, and it is
Get back on track. Wait, that's a thing.
It's what the heck is it called? I've seen it a billion times. It's Rodney Dangerfield, and it's the Triple Indy, and it's called
The Triple Indy.
Triple Indy because he's diving. He goes
Yeah,
back to school. Back to school.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck! I haven't seen that forever.
Okay, so you got Hot Lips Houlihan, right? Is one of the teachers. Kurt Vonnegut plays himself. There's that great line where
No shit.
Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut gives him his paper. He turns it in, and she says, "Clearly, you know nothing about Kurt Vonnegut." And then he calls him up and complains. Oingo Boingo is in there playing themselves at a party. You've got not Rodney Dangerfield, Robert Downey Jr.'s in it.
I need to watch this again.
And the Johnny from Karate Kid is in it. Same era. Yeah, it's because it's like 95. It's spectacular.
I listened to a pretty lengthy podcast about the life of Rodney Dangerfield, and it was really interesting. Super interesting guy because he was a comic, and then he fucking pretty much quit comedy for years and years and years. And then Rodney Dangerfield was actually was a character that he played during doing stand up back in the day, right? But but he was a young man. It didn't quite work.
Yeah.
And when he came back like in his late 40s, and was like went to some open mic or whatever. And even the name, like he didn't have a name for the character or whatever. And anyway, so like the guy who was calling him up, like somehow like just dubbed him Rodney Dangerfield, like on the spot. And that became his persona or whatever. But super interesting. And he has an interesting life. And actually, like, he would, so I whenever you say comedic genius, that's always like, oh, I don't know about that, like fucking George Carlin was a comedic genius. Let's not fucking go where. But Rodney Dangerfield has a style of comedy that is unproducible or unreplicatable. That like short little one-liner, like whatever. Nobody else can pull that off without it just being shitty.
Yeah, it's being just Rodney Dangerfield.
Right.
It's
it's
a great hat. You get a bowl of soup with that hat.
and then like, what's his name? I'm just having a blank. But the guy with the big glasses who died of heroin overdose is fucking. Also had
the guy from Truman Capote, the guy who played Truman Capote.
No. He always wears the big shiny glasses, longer hair. He's one of the greatest comedians of all time.
We're talking about George Burns?
No.
Oh wait, he didn't die of heroin overdose. I was just trying to think of the thickest glasses I've.
So he had that real like deadpan kind of thing, and he'd be like,
Stephen Wright?
No,
he die of heroin
he did
overdose?
not. Stephen Wright. Oh fuck it doesn't matter. But anyway,
tell us a joke he told. Or
I was just trying to think of one.
I'm hung up on the glasses.
An heroin overdose.
Fuck, there's like else.
Is it recent? Did he
No, he died in like the 80s, maybe the 90s. Fuck it, doesn't matter. Let's just move on, or else we're just gonna sit here and it's just gonna come to me as soon as we start talking about it.
Who's the guy Leary stole all his stuff from?
This is like okay. It's when if I ever come up with this name, we're all gonna be like, oh, of course, because I mean, we're talking about one of the
like Bill Hicks.
Yeah, Bill Hicks. Yes.
Is it Bill Hicks?
Bill Hicks.
Okay, yeah, that's guy Leary stole his stuff from. Yeah, Bill Hicks. Okay.
Ugh, I don't even remember where we're going with that.
I don't know either. Comedy genius. We were talking about comedy genius.
Oh yeah, I was just thought Rodney Dangerfield's a very interesting person.
God, all of this is getting cut, right? Because
no, we don't cut anything.
Damn it.
Nobody like.
No
Okay,
really
so if
anyway.
anybody's this deep, they just are like, just keep going. Yeah, just keep going.
Just push through.
Oh, I did.
We got another 3 hours.
I did want to
folks.
say though, and like I am very like I don't know what I would progressive, I guess, when it comes to like the idea of gender identity,
pronouns,
blah 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 blah. We're talking about pronouns, but I gotta tell you, I struggle with they them.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Right?
I do too.
And that's why that was to come back around. But that's why I was like, it actually works because they them is super fucking tough. And I get it. You want to be you want to be able to be called whatever you want to be able to be called, but we're changing singular to plural. And we have been trained our entire fucking lives not to change singular and plural. So to refer to a single person as they is very tough.
Well, I was recently in a conversation with someone, and I won't get into details to protect their identity, whatever. And they said, they. And I'm like, wait, I thought we were talking about one person. And I'm like, I've got incredibly confused, right? And I'm like, are there more people involved in this story? I don't pay attention well, so maybe I missed something. And it's really hard for us who have short attention spans to like follow a story when you suddenly change shit up on us like that.
And and it's like, it to me, it causes more whatever than it helps.
Language really needs to evolve naturally. Like, and this is
Yes,
just forcing something,
yes.
and it's something that is counterintuitive. And trying to force something at all is like fetch isn't going to happen.
Well, and there's
right?
also like you fucking. I feel like people that get worked up about that.
What?
Go ahead.
Alienate a lot of like people that are allies and shit. I've had like over and over. I've made honest mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I like if and just people jump your shit about that stuff, and I don't fucking appreciate that. Like, I feel a little bit bad about it until they jump my shit about it, and then I'm at the point where I'm like, get the fuck out of my face, shut up, like, this is fucking over. You're a dick. I'm fucking out of here. And I'm like, and it didn't have to be like that, like, I mean, I straight up went from like, oh, my bad. And now I don't give a fuck if it was my bad or not, because you're all over me and fuck you, like people just need to, people need to calm the fuck down about that stuff.
But I also, like, I totally get that, that's a struggle and being, but it's a very difficult thing. Especially, and maybe it's not.
And I'm in, like, I want to be in. But you can push me the fuck out momentarily, like by being rude.
Right.
Well, it is because it's.
I haven't run into that. I just have run into people like actually just. It's not actually. It's never been the person who has the odd or different preferred pronouns. Yeah. It's always other people referring to the person. And
always,
then when you fuck up, it's like and it's like fuck.
That's a woke culture fucking phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. Just like, oh, like you did, like you said something racist, blah 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 blah, and then the fucking, and then the person the person of another color or whatever is like, oh, I didn't pick up on that, like I didn't bother me, but
educate me on what I did, like in a kind way, and ask me gently if I would consider not doing it again because of this is how it makes you feel. And I'm all down for that. If you jump my shit, I'm just going to react.
But again, it's usually typically not the person who...
Yeah, it's usually a bystander.
It's usually the bystander
that wants to jump in and fucking be the best person on earth.
And say
the most woke, the most elevated motherfucker.
We really need to call them person holes.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I
think really, the thing is it's a hole. Like, just that goes to a sewer. I think a manhole is a pretty good fucking... that should be gendered.
So there's things that, like, homosexuality, right? We were asked to... I don't want to say it that way, but we were like,
you had to blow it.
We've had to accept that, and I'm totally cool with that. It's something that's been around forever. It fucking exists in the animal kingdom. It's very normal. Blah blah blah. That's easy for me to accept. Transgenderism. Men have dressed like women since Shakespeare's days, at least, and people dress whatever. I think it's the basis of a good chunk of comedy is dressing like another gender. So that's easy for me to accept. This they/them thing is very new. It's very complicated, and it's forcing a language change, which is, once again, counterintuitive to how the language works, and that's why it's hard for me. And you just have to understand that it's hard for me, and I'm going to ask some questions like, oh, you meant this one person as opposed to a group of people, right? And that's going to happen. And I'm going to keep asking that because it's going to keep being confusing because you can't force, like, a geological change like that in zero time.
And it is the tough part is the plural to singular. But I'm fine with it, man. And I'm telling you, if you want your preferred pronoun to be it, I'm in.
Or if you want to pick a new one, like
Zed's okay, but it's pretty hard to remember, and I can never. And plus, it's stupid.
I'm probably never going to do that, to be honest.
Bitch and Camaro is okay with me
Zed
too.
Dead's baby, Zed's dead.
I just want it to be Bitch and Camaro. I just want to like. Bitch and Camaro, or it could be personal, or it could be past tense or present. It was like Bitch and Camaro went to the vehicle. Oh, what's he doing there? Oh, it's not he, it's Bitch and Camaro.
The only one thing I don't ever really get pissy about it, but like I carry around my purse, right? And I call it my purse, and I it's my purse, and everybody's like, that's not a purse, that's a man bag, or that's a satchel. It's just a fucking purse. Like, I don't think purse has
it's my EDC.
I mean, we could look up
that's right. Pretty much my man purse.
And even if it is like a woman's, even if the etymology of it is it's a woman's handbag, I'm okay with carrying around a woman's handbag.
You're not confusing anyone because they know that it's a purse is a clutch that you carry around or whatever.
I'm not calling it my clutch. I'm not.
I mean, it's a little big for a clutch.
I just internally edited like 8 things that I wasn't. I was like, nope, can't say that. Nope, can't say that. Nope, can't say that. Well, don't want to. I guess I can. Just didn't want to put it out there.
Hey, another thing, we did skip right past one of the positives about the preferred pronoun. It's the only reason that most people know what a pronoun is.
That's super true.
Now, if you want to teach people English, everybody's going to have a preferred adverb.
Yeah.
And
So actually, you know what? I think no, it's not good. But it would be funny to be like
Adverbial noun phrase.
my preferred personal present pronoun is, and then my preferred past pronoun. Yeah, like I'd like you to. I would like you to go with I'm going to be they, him. Keep that shit straight, bitch. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. It's like a difficult thing, and yet I do support the movement. I just have a hard time with the language.
We are kind of dicks being like three white guys just talking about
Hey,
things that
but
aren't
we're
problems
all
for us.
guys that are on board. We're all
We're-
allies. We're all
We're like
I mean,
99% there. There's like
Yeah.
some hang-ups that we just struggle with, right? I think that's true.
we just don't want people jumping their
trying.
shit because they're assholes and we're learning.
We're fucking.
you know?
Wait, you're trying to teach old dogs new tricks, and we are old dogs.
Right?
that's speciest. It's true though. You really can't teach old dogs to
No.
Oh, funny. All right, we got anything else we want to talk about? This is fucking fun. We
mean,
could do
good,
it. We
yeah.
could do another 4 hours.
Yeah. Was it 4 hours?
I don't know. No, we did a while.
Jesus,
though.
we
We
did
a
like 3
while.
hours. Yeah. No, it was super fun. I love hanging out with you guys and just
Yeah.
shooting the shit and
Yeah.
talking
Well,
about forcing in my opinions once in a while.
Yeah, we'll have to. We should get together. I mean, not necessarily on camera. That
Yeah,
might be really
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
boring.
yeah.
But like, start like laying down what we want.
Oh, for the
world to be.
You know,
I feel like we have
that
to
is-
do it.
I think the
in
reason
person.
that I think the reason that it does have to be like a in person or even a fucking
have
meeting,
Zoom
like a Zoom
call,
meeting or
yeah.
whatever, because otherwise we do shit and this happens. This keeps fucking happening to me. Like I'll throw an idea out there, and like it's just out there. Like nobody's gonna fucking like. Well, let me just pull over and fucking address Kyle's.
Right.
You know, everybody's got shit going on.
And then-
at the time, I'm fucking feeling it. I'm inspired and I'm ready to go. Like, and I want to put shit on paper.
Yeah.
But I'm like.
I've got a job. and
Yeah, we
there's
need.
a
Well, we need to do
meeting
these outlines and shit. Like we need to, so that once we've agreed on the stuff that we need to agree on, then we can all like work on our separate shit.
Right.
Like.
I mean, I
like-
still really like the idea of doing a joined world.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
I do.
Well,
Though
100%.
there is a part of me that's
Robert
like
Howard.
I've had a few jobs where I've worked for like small nonprofits or whatever where they're ruled by committee, and I'm like, you guys are fucking horrible.
No.
Right? So that's kind of one of the problems with any time you're trying to do anything with a group of people. Even if we're
everything is memes to me
if
because
we're all pretty like-minded and we're all kind of on the same page, it's still really hard to fucking get everybody on the same page.
If we had a one,
But if we can sit down and just
Yes.
nail it to the wall.
if we can do a one-page outline, not even that,
Yeah,
just
we just need a
here's the
timeline.
basics,
Yep.
go do whatever you want with it. But it reminds me, what I'm so into it for is like Robert E. Howard and Lovecraft. I mean, that was some great collaboration.
Don't know about that. Robert E. Howard and Lovecraft?
Yeah, Conan guy and Lovecraft.
Yeah, I know fucking who
Yeah.
Robert
They
E.
wrote
Howard
in the
is.
same world.
Lovecraft wrote in what? In the world of Conan?
World of Conan is just the prehistory of Earth. I know, like the same.
No
months.
shit.
Yeah. I
the
know, look it up.
Hyborian Age or whatever.
Yeah, Hyborian Age, which is just yeah.
Well,
Which is,
they were
it's
they were
like-
huge fans of each other's work or some shit.
Yeah, no, they just wrote back
Weird.
and forth in each other's worlds. Yeah,
But
then since
at
then,
different
tons
time
of-
periods?
yeah. I mean,
I guess
mostly,
I
but
haven't-
there's some references, back and forth references.
I haven't read much Lovecraft.
Yeah,
honestly.
because like you'll find
I'm
like some
more-
Cthulhu type shit
Yeah.
in Conan
Yeah,
and stuff.
I'm more of a...
And some of the gods are the same, or the elder gods
Interesting.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That
Actually, I was just having a
when I found
conversation
that,
about Robert E. Howard because Robert E. Howard, kind of the way he wrote, and I love Conan, and I love most of Howard's, almost all of Howard's stuff. But he tells a story about how he's a character developer.
Yeah.
He develops his character, and then the characters just kind of like trap. He doesn't have like a real general idea of this of where that story's going, whatever. And sometimes you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but
when you read Howard, when you read like Conan books and stuff,
Yeah.
it was like maddening to try to figure out like a timeline.
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
what the fuck? Like but everything jumped around so much.
Right.
So it's so funny.
But-
so he started out with the witch hunter, whatever his name was, Simon Crane or whatever.
Oh, Solomon Kane.
Solomon Kane, one of my
I think
favorites.
Solomon Kane was first, and then he was like, "No, this is too recent, and people know that this like magic and stuff didn't happen." So then he went back to who's the dude who starts with the Z, right? And he's in like pre-Atlantean age, right? Mu and stuff.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I don't know about that
Crawl?
one. I know Cull the Conqueror.
Call.
Okay.
That's what it is, not a Z. And then, like, his sweet spot was the in between those ages, which was Conan, which it wasn't like before, like, whatever, but it wasn't recent enough. And that's kind of. I got this Conan book on Audible that's like it was like an omnibus of all the Conan stuff.
Oh, really?
And,
Oh.
it has an introduction where it kind of explains that. And it talks about his life. Like, he committed suicide and he was like a boxer. And
Yeah.
He not very successful with the ladies.
Probably
and,
had
yeah.
he probably actually had a traumatic brain injury or CME.
Yeah,
We don't really
yeah.
know, but he was a boxer, and
Yeah.
like his personality drastically changed
Yeah.
toward the end of his life, and he ended up killing himself.
Yeah.
I mean, so like you look back at it now, and even look at somebody like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
He made some really weird fucking decisions
Yeah.
toward the end, and like how much of that was from
Yeah.
because that motherfucker would because he wasn't all that tough, Teddy wasn't that
Yeah.
he wasn't that tough, but he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And he would find the toughest fucking guys around, and then like they'd kick the shit out of him.
Yeah.
In the White House. Right? This is true. I mean, this is absolutely true. Oh, I've listened to so many goddamn hours of Teddy Roosevelt shit. He's one of my favorites because he's like, it's not really an anti-hero. He's complex.
Yeah.
He did some great shit, and he did some really horrible shit, and he was all over the place as far as like, but I feel like his motivations were relatively pure. His just methods weren't always. And he's wanted to be a fucking hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoy him. But yeah, he would literally have sparring matches with badasses in the White House, and they'd kick the shit out of him. And he would get fucking like irate if he thought somebody was pulling their punches.
Well, I respect that anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Teddy Roosevelt.
Awesome.
That's where the teddy
Yeah,
bear comes
yeah.
from. You guys
Yeah,
know that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Because he
National Park
refused.
System.
And the National Park. Yeah. Good, but that's a famous story. Maybe everybody knows it. I don't know. Tell it anyway. But he was out on a hunt, and they like basically like corralled a bear for him to shoot, and he was like,
no.
I'm not shooting that bear. And then he like left, and then they shot the fucking bear anyway.
Dicks.
But then they that's where the teddy bear comes from. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you guys for joining us,
Awesome.
and we will see you soon.
All right.
I got the blues so bad one time it put my face in a permanent frown. You know I'm feeling so much better I could cakewalk into town. I woke up this morning feeling so good, you know I laid back down again. Throw your big leg over me, mama, I just might not feel this good again. My baby, oh my baby, I love the way she walks. When my girl gets sleepy, I love the way she baby talks. My work done got scarce, honey, all my work, it done got hard. I spent the whole day stealing chickens, mama, from the rich folks' yard. I got the blues so bad one time it put my face in a permanent frown. Now I'm feeling so much better I could cakewalk into town. I wanna go on a picnic in the country, mama, and stay all day. I don't care if I don't do nothing, just while my time away. I got the blues so bad one time it put my face in a permanent frown. You know I'm feeling so much better, I could cakewalk into town.